Hello and welcome to Marvel Vision, a Marvel Studios TV show podcast brought to you by Cinema Sangha. My name is Devin Faraci. I'm one of your hosts. Joining me as he traditionally does.
My name is Derek Faraci, and when I invite a woman to dinner, I expect her to look at my face. That's the price she has to pay. How are you, Devin?
I'm okay. How you doing?
I'm good.
I lost 10 pounds.
Hey, good for you.
But I didn't do it on purpose.
Well, even better, unless it's a deadly disease or something.
Well, I mean, it wasn't fast. It was my physical last year to my physical this year.
Yeah.
10 pounds down.
There you go. Great.
But it's crazy because I have not been eating well and I had not been exercising. My doctor is not concerned, so we don't have to be worried about anything. My labs are very clean, except for the usual shit that, like, I'm pre-diabetic, I have high triglycerides, the shit like that.
Yeah.
But nothing bad enough for her to want to deal with.
Sure.
And her thing is, as they always say, you got to lose some weight. I've been trying to get the GLP-1 drugs from my doctor. Those like the Ozempic and Mounjaro and that shit. And unfortunately, my insurance provider, I see my doctor is in my insurance provider hospital. They're really tough on prescribing that.
Okay.
So, like, I think that they should prescribe it to me because I am pre-diabetic and it can get me down below pre-diabetic. That makes perfect sense, right? But I have to be diabetic to get it. Now, I had a friend.
Makes no sense.
I have a friend who wanted to get it, and her doctor, who she'd been seeing since she was like 13, the doctor said, you know what you can do is next time you come in for blood work, just eat 2 pounds of candy the day before, and you will come up as diabetic 100% the next day. And she's like, and then we can prescribe it to you and you'll be covered by your insurance.
There you go. Well, doctor, I am 2 pounds of candy.
I told my doctor this and she says, please don't do that. So, but yeah, I'm thinking about doing a thing actually.
Yeah. What's that?
Your camera's all doing that thing again.
Oh, is it?
I'm thinking about doing a thing. There is an influencer on Instagram who I quite like. Derek's put his face in his hand for those listening at home and rubbing his eyes. His name, you're going to really love this. His name is Joey Swoll. And his name is Joey Swoll. And he's a gym bro. And what his whole thing is that he finds people who are posting TikToks and Instagrams making fun of people at the gym or being jerks at the gym, and then he finds out who they are, and then he gets them kicked out of their gym.
I can get behind that.
And every one of his videos ends with, "You gotta do better."
Okay, I can get behind that.
And so I kind of love Joey Swoll because, like, I think it's like delightful, and I love when he like gets real mad at somebody because people really post shitty stuff of other people at the gym, and people also will be like filming themselves at the gym, and then they'll get really mad when somebody walks through their shot, and it's like, bro, this is not your home gym. Like, you gotta fucking accept the fact that somebody's gonna walk through your goddamn shot.
Yeah. Also, stop it. Don't do that. Just don't film yourself working out. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah, there's another genre of video, somebody filming themselves working out and somebody else coming over and saying, hey, can you not film this way? I don't want to be on camera. And then that person yelling at that, or like, can you believe this jerk, this Karen? And then Joey Swoll yells at them. But Joey Swoll does, he does personal training. And he'll create a personal training plan for you, both diet and exercise. And his prices are like insanely low.
Yeah.
So I am like thinking about doing that. I'm thinking about going to Joey Swoll and
Jay Swoll.
and getting like my personalized training plan.
Yeah.
He does 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and 12 weeks.
Okay.
4 weeks is $100.
That's $25 a week. That's nothing.
That's nothing. 8 weeks is $200, and 12 weeks is
a week.
Is $300. 12 weeks is $300.
Always $25 a week.
I mean, it seems really. Also, if I give him my email address, I can get 10% off the 8 and 12 week coaching plans.
Oh, there you go.
But like, I'm like kind of like trying to figure out the best ways. I'm motivated to lose weight again. I gained a lot of weight after Brittany died, and when she was sick, like the last year, I gained a ton of weight just from stress and stuff.
Sure.
And I don't eat well when I'm stressed. I envy the people who don't eat, who like have no appetite when they're stressed, because I would fucking
I don't
kill
understand
for
that
that
at all. I don't understand.
I'm just shoveling shit in my mouth when I'm stressed.
Yeah. I mean, as you well know, when people are going through a hard time, my first thought is I should send them some candy.
you sent a bunch of ice cream and stuff to the house at one point. Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of back in a place where I'm feeling maybe ready to begin trying to get my shit together again. And maybe I'm going to use Joey Swoll as my coach.
Those are really good prices.
I know, right? I mean, it's online coaching. It's not in person.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's the thing. So I'm not going to be, although he lives in LA, so who knows? But I think that's important to note that this is an online coaching thing, and it is not like I'm not meeting up with him or whatever. But even at $25 for an online plan from a guy who honestly is fucking diesel. This guy is fucking built.
Yeah.
I'm and also I like him. I like his stuff.
Okay.
I got really excited because his girlfriend just became a paramedic, and he did a beautiful post about her becoming a paramedic. And he says, behind every great man is nobody, because his woman is standing at his side and leading the way forward. And I'm like, Joey Swoll, is so cool.
I'm sold. I'm sold on Joey Swoll. Jay Swoll is my boy now.
Yeah, he's really great. He just did a thing where somebody was, they videoed this kid in the gym, and then they made fun of the kid. And then the kid found out about it and never began bullying him at school and shit like that. And fucking Joey Swoll reached out to the kid's family, found out that the kid lives nearby, and has arranged to go down where the kid lives, take the kid for a workout, and then also maybe go talk to the bullies at his school.
Just beat the crap out of the bullies?
I mean, that would be so fucking good, wouldn't it?
That's his next video? Is him beating up a bunch of like 13-year-olds?
Did you watch Adolescence?
No.
Oh, you don't have Netflix, yeah.
Yeah, I got rid of Netflix.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible. Each episode's one shot. And you would think that would mean they're all people sitting in rooms. But episode 2 has a fucking a foot chase scene that I could not believe. Like, it's crazy the technical stuff that's going on in the show, because they claim there's no digital joining, that it really is one shot.
Yeah.
And they're like fucking getting in cars and driving around. They're like running down the street, and like, every mark has to be hit perfectly. Like, it's not shaky cam. It's like really gliding. Anyway, on that show, this kid, this 13-year-old kid stabs a girl to death. And it's about like why he did that, like how, and they like name drop Andrew Tate as like part of the problem.
Okay.
But in this second episode, the cops that are on the case go to the kid's school, and there's this 2 cops. It's a white lady and a black guy, and the black guy's hot. He is like handsome. He is buff. He's wearing a fucking tight t-shirt for a bunch of scenes because they know that this guy's got like muscles to show off. And so he goes to the school, and it turns out it's a school that his son goes to. Okay. And there are really bad bullies in that school, and they're being really mean to the son, and they do it in front of the cop dad. And he doesn't do this, but this is why I could never be a cop, because I would just go over and arrest that fucking kid. And I would be like, you're going to spend a night in jail. You're going to find out exactly what happens to guys like you in jail. Like, that's 100% what I would do.
Did you watch the season of True Detective with Colin Farrell?
No.
There's a scene not unlike that where he finds out that this kid at school is bullying his son. So he goes to the kid's home and like confronts the kid. And the kid's like, again, like 13, 14. And he's like, if you keep doing this to my son, I will not just arrest your father. I will fuck him in the ass. He's it's an amazing scene.
That's incredible. Oh, yeah. Wow.
It's an amazing scene of him just telling this kid, like, I will beat him, I will destroy him, and then I'll fuck him in the ass.
Colin Farrell, very hot. A lot of people might be willing to change sides if Colin Farrell offered to fuck him in the ass. Why not? Let me give it a shot. Hey, why not?
And if he's not in character, he'd probably be pretty nice about it.
I think he's a good lover.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
I think he'd want to make sure you're comfortable first.
Yeah, having a nice time. I agree. Straight around. He would give you a reach around and everything. You know what? I mean, he's one of the guys that definitely. I saw a very funny tweet today. This is not the stuff that you like, but it was about Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
And the tweet said, I love Pedro Pascal because everything about him is so old Hollywood, because there's all these newspaper stories like, oh, no woman can make this guy settle down. Oh, does Pedro Pascal have a brand new girlfriend? And it's like, no, he's gay, guys. Like, he's like very obviously gay. But the newspapers are still doing, no woman can make him settle down. He's too much of a player.
I thought he was married.
No.
Oh, I thought he was.
No. No, not at all.
I don't really pay much attention to the private lives of.
No,
of
I know. That's why I was going to say
Yeah.
you don't necessarily like that stuff. But I just thought it was very funny because that really is very old Hollywood. Like where the gayest actors would have these like
Confirmed bachelor.
Exactly. Like so, and it is kind of nice to have that back a little bit.
Yeah.
Although only if that's how Pedro wants it. I hope that he does not feel stuck in the closet or something like that. It'll hurt his career.
Yeah.
He's really cool. He has a trans sister.
Yes.
And he brought her out on the red carpet.
Yes,
very cool.
He's very big on trans rights.
Yeah, very cool dude.
Yeah.
Very cool dude.
And he was part of the community COVID show.
Oh, was he?
Yes, they did the episode when everyone was in lockdown, and they did like all the different shows were doing like Zoom episodes, essentially
live reads. Yeah,
live reads, and they did the episode where they read Pierce's will, and I guess Walton Goggins, who played this character in the show, couldn't come back, or they didn't ask him to do it, and they had Pedro Pascal do it, and it's very clear that Pedro Pascal did not read the script in advance. Because when they get up to the points where he's bequeathing everyone stuff in the will, and one of the things that everyone gets is a cylinder of Pierce's sperm, Pedro Pascal cannot stop laughing. He is like crying laughing.
That is so charming. It's so beautiful. Charming.
Because the rest of the cast is there, minus Chevy, obviously, and they are just watching him and laughing too. And like you can see from their faces, it's like, this does work. This is a great gag. Like, look at this guy losing it.
Yeah. Don Glover came?
Yep, he was on it. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, everybody was there.
Good for him. Good for everybody. Yeah. Doing nice things for the world.
Yeah. I believe it raised money for something.
I'm sure it did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that all that COVID lockdown video stuff, even before everybody started getting really anti-Zionist, that's what killed Gal Gadot's career. Because she spearheaded that Imagine, and it was so fucking embarrassing and horrible.
It was horrific.
And that was, everybody's like, oh, she sucks. Like, yeah. and then the cultural attitudes towards the IDF began to change. Yeah. And then that was like more confirmation that she sucked.
Yeah. And then what's his name? Kind of, I guess, I can't remember. It's the guy that does the snowman in Frozen. I can't remember the actor's name.
Josh Gad.
Josh Gad. He had the bit.
He was crying.
He's in his backyard crying about how hard it is to stay in the house, and people are like, "Your yard is bigger than most people's homes."
The thing is that Josh Gad sucks, and I think that's part of his appeal to people who like him. I think that he's like super cringy dope. Like I think that's like part of what they like, you know. He's a theater kid, like so that level of cringe is what kind of comes with the territory, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've talked about this before, but I talked to Gal Gadot on the set of Justice League while she was in her Wonder Woman costume.
That's wild.
Very cool. Her and Ben Affleck as Batman in his costume. Yeah, I'm going to tell you something. He wasn't wearing a cape because the cape's CGI, I guess. And Ben Affleck's ass in that costume was pretty amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah. And I told him, I said, wow, your ass looks good in that. He loved it.
He recently, I don't have it in the news, but he recently did an interview where he talked about his time as Batman and when he knew it was not going to work out.
It's funny. Ben Affleck's entire persona is basically apologizing for stuff he did in the past, like professional stuff. Like it's always like, well, that was really terrible. I did this terrible thing. And it's like very funny because he doesn't talk about the great things that he does. He only talks about the stuff that didn't work.
Yeah. Well, nobody asked him about the stuff that worked.
I guess.
You know, nobody's out there and like, hey, Sum of All Fears is fucking great. Like, you know.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That. Like, that's a good question, though, because Sum of All Fears is great. Not Jack Reacher. I can't remember the name of that character. He has a TV show with his name.
No, it's, oh, geez. I read all these books. I thought of it earlier today, and I can't remember.
I read all these books.
Tom Clancy's the writer.
Yeah, it's Tom Clancy, but I can't remember the name of the guy. Anyway, like, as that character is Jack Ryan is popular on an Amazon show, does he feel like he didn't get the ability to really do something cool? And the fact that they adapted Sum of All Fears, the one that has a nuke going off at the Super Bowl, means they might have wanted to adapt the one where a Japanese kamikaze pilot crashes a 747 into Congress during the State of the Union speech.
There you go.
And then Jack Ryan, who was at that point in the government, and he was the designated survivor, so he becomes president.
There you go.
And because it's a Tom Clancy novel, I can't remember the name of this one. It's really good until he becomes president, and like it's like chapter upon chapter about the flat tax and how they're going to like institute the flat tax and stuff like that. It just becomes this like conservative. Like I don't mind when it's a conservative wet dream and they're killing guys. That's fun, you know. Yeah. But when it's a conservative wet dream about policy, you're like, ah, oh, Jesus Christ. So, but I kind of would like to have seen Ben Affleck as president, though.
Yes, I agree. I just finished watching Reacher season 3 this weekend.
I have not watched any of the Reacher.
I love the show. It's fantastic. I heard it's great.
Yeah, I heard it's great.
And there's one thing they do every season that I look forward to. In the first season, I thought it was hilarious. And the second season, I was like, is this going to happen every season? And then it happened again in the third season. So I'm pretty sure it's going to have to happen in the fourth season as well, which is at some point, Reacher, who is 6'7", 500 pounds of just muscle. He's just a giant man. Ends up in a situation where like 5 college kids are like, we can kick your ass. And he just beats the shit out of them. And it's always like stringy college kids. Like there's like, and none of them are like, this isn't going to work out, guys. This is a terrible plan. Look at this man. He's gigantic. And yeah, he just always beats the hell out of them. And that's the end of the scene. And then it almost never gets brought up again. In season 3, it gets mentioned again. Somebody's like, you beat up these kids on Main Street. He's like, yeah, they were asking for it. You know, like, but in season 3, they find a guy who's even bigger than him for him to fight. And It's pretty great because they do a good job of setting up early on. Reacher like punches the guy and the guy doesn't even move. And then the guy just slaps Reacher and Reacher falls to the ground. And it's like, oh man. And throughout the rest of the season, Reacher's like, I got to figure out how to beat this guy up because it's going to come down to it. And they have like a massive fight that is like most of the final episode. It's great. I love it.
It's crazy that Tom Cruise played this character.
Yes.
It is. I mean, because the character in the book is the guy on the show. That is how he's described. Giant, big guy. And then they cast fucking 5'2" Tom Cruise in the part. It's so crazy.
I mean, those are good movies. I enjoy those movies.
I think there's only one of them, right?
There's 2.
There's 2 Tom Cruise Jack Reacher movies?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy. I had no idea.
It's like the first one's just like Jack Reacher, and the second one's like Jack Reacher and Never Go Back or something like that.
Wow.
Right?
Was that like a pandemic movie or something?
No.
Well,
it is Jack Reacher and Jack Reacher. I can't believe I remember the title. Never Go Back, 2016. That's
like the one thing you remember. You can't remember anything else ever, but the Jack Reacher Tom Cruise movies. Well, I have to watch that now. I've never seen it.
It's not as good as the first one. It's directed by Edward Zwick, who I don't know.
Yes, you do.
I do?
Yeah, he directed Glory.
Oh, okay. Well, I like Glory, but this is a little different. But you know, McQuarrie did the first one,
right?
Which is better. But both are good. Like both are good movies. Both are very much Mission Impossible movies where I couldn't tell you in a second of what the plot is. You know, much like the show, I'm sure it's like, oh, somebody from Reacher's past is dead or in trouble, and he's got to go help him out. Like, you know,
the guy who plays Reacher is very woke.
He's very woke, yeah,
and he's religious.
Is he? I didn't know.
Yeah, he's religious woke. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go.
It's pretty cool. He's a cool dude. It's good to have him on our side. As shit gets worse, at least we have Reacher on our side.
Yeah, Reacher can go beat up everybody in Congress or something.
Imagine Reacher. Imagine J.D. Vance, Kash Patel, and Bobby Kennedy Jr. are like, we could take this guy, and they're just the college kids.
Yeah, they would be the college kids, 100%. Although I don't know if he can actually fight. Who knows? I imagine he's got some like stunt training, I'm sure. But like
he's got training, I'm sure. And I feel like a big guy like that has to at least have some idea how to. People like challenging big guys.
Yeah.
They love doing it because they think that they're the one that's going to take this big guy down, and the big guy makes them feel inferior.
And especially now that he's Reacher, he's on a huge show.
Yeah. But also, I don't think that J.D. Vance, Cash Patel, or Bobby Kennedy Jr. could fight. So I don't think like we're up against like boxers.
Yeah, no, they can't fight. Yeah.
Did you see J.D. Vance in his giant parka?
I love the picture of him alone, just being like with his hand out. It's amazing.
It's unreal. These people, I mean, they're really good at like authoritarian coup, but they're very bad at optics. They're so bad at optics. And this guy just looks like a clown all the time. And that was the most clownish shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah. They're very good at messaging. That's for sure. They really understand messaging.
They're messaging to their base and somehow the media.
And to like low information voters. Yeah. They're great at it because they come up with, during the whole ACA stuff, it was death panels, and people are like, "Oh, we don't want death panels" and stuff like that. Like, they're very good at that.
Those are the current guys.
That's still a lot of the current guys.
Yeah, but those guys have all turned into Trump people, and so messaging is more like "fuck you."
Yeah, the messaging has shifted quite.
What are you, gay? Yeah. Like that. That's the messaging now. Yeah. Like,
oh, you're gonna have to pay more, and people are like, yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Oh man. Okay, we got any comic book superhero news?
We do.
What do we got?
There are multiple claims of a recent Superman test screening.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the scooper who you go to, either it went over smashingly well, it went over very badly, or it was divisive. One of those three.
There's big news that came out of that, though.
Yes, I have that here.
Okay. I mean, I guess, I don't know what to believe on that. So divisive makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a whole generation that grew up on the Snyder Superman, and I think Gunn's tone is going to be very different, and that is going to really, even people that aren't Snyder bros, they're going to be like, wait, what is this? This is silly. So yeah, I have a suspicion anyway.
One of the scoopers said that the test screenings are going well, but Warner Brothers execs don't think it's good. So that's, I can believe that.
I can believe that. Yeah.
We've seen that before where execs have a good movie and don't think they do.
Remember, the execs at Disney and Marvel didn't like Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
There you go.
And as I've said before on this program, they actually made a cut that removed most of the jokes because they thought it was too funny.
Yes.
And so that's very interesting, that maybe this is like James Gunn's problem, kind of like people can't get on his level. The executives can't get on his level.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Coming out of this, in some Reddit thread, somebody called out one of the scoopers saying that they're full of crap. And the scooper got so angry, he revealed that Bradley Cooper's in the movie. So to prove his bona fides, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. That Bradley Cooper will be playing Jor-El.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a good choice. I think it's funny looking online. People are like, he's not a big enough name. And it's like,
that's crazy.
He's been nominated for like 12 Academy Awards, 5 of them for acting. He's one of the most well-known actors out there today. It seems like a good choice. He's going to be in it for a couple of minutes. It makes sense.
He's also the king of cameos.
Yes, he's also the king of cameos.
He can't stop making cameos.
He loves a cameo.
So that actually makes it make a lot of sense. He's just going around Hollywood saying, "Hey, anybody got any cameos?
Yeah,
I can play myself or somebody else.
Can I be an extra? What's going on?" Yeah.
I mean, he had a cameo in the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yes, it's very weird.
I just watched it
weird recently. I was like, "How did this happen?" Like,
it's super weird, and it's super weird. I gotta say that his cameo is like a little disruptive.
Yes. Because you spend the first 30 seconds and be like, is that Bradley Cooper?
That Bradley Cooper? That sounds like Bradley Cooper a lot. And then
you
realize it is.
Down, it's hard to tell for sure.
Then you realize it is. Yeah. And then you're like, wait, Bradley Cooper's in this movie? And then it really is disruptive the first time around. So Jor-El, though, that's a fine cameo because that's a character. We know that there's big actors that play Jor-El, Russell Crowe, Marlon Brando. So I think also casting Cooper as Jor-El indicates an aspect of the approach to the Superman mythos.
Yeah.
He's not a big tough guy. He is not, Russell Crowe's a big tough guy. Like that's like, he's like fat now, but like part of his deal is that like Russell Crowe was like an action guy for a long time.
Man of Steel was kind of like the end of his tough guy era, right?
No, I think he had gotten fat before that.
He's not fat in Man of Steel though.
He goes up and down. He's real fat now, I think.
He's real thin now. I saw a picture of him
Oh, is he? Good for
at like
him.
the airport, and he's all back in shape.
Good for him.
Yeah.
And Marlon Brando was just like this like incredible figure in Hollywood. Like he's like a huge figure. And so those are, that's mythic. And the Russell Crowe is like tough guy.
Yeah.
And then now Bradley Cooper is, he's a cameo whore who has a friendly demeanor about him.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a different take in general. So
yeah.
I don't know what they did on Smallville or any of that shit, but
who was? I can't remember who played Jor-El in Smallville. It was somebody though. It was
it was somebody. It was a human being.
I mean, it was like a known actor. I can't remember.
It would be funny if
it
they
might have been Terrence Stamp that played him.
Oh, that sounds about right. It would be funny if they did the Marlon Brando recommendation in Smallville, and they just had a lamp playing Jor-El.
I was going to say, it'd be funny
luggage, right?
If in the new movie, it's just a piece of luggage, and also he's doing the voice of Rocket Raccoon. So Jor-El's got like a thick Brooklyn accent going.
I hope it was luggage. I hope it's a puppet, not just a piece of luggage just sitting there. I hope it's like a puppet that has a mouth and eyes that like are being actually like used. That would make me so happy.
Like a what are they called?
Oh boy.
Well, that's over.
All right. What's our next piece of news?
Like a Muppet.
That really that took all that time to say Muppet?
I'm trying to remember the guy who made the Muppets. His name
Jim Henson?
Jim Henson. Like a Jim
You might
Henson
have dementia.
design.
Is it possible you have dementia?
I wouldn't say no. The Avengers Doomsday stunt showing chairs, which we did a special episode for.
We sure did a special episode, yeah.
Clocked in at 275 million views.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And it cost nothing.
Cost pennies.
Yeah.
Pennies. Yeah.
Especially compared to what they usually spend on this kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like really amazing work by Disney marketing. Just incredible work. I think it's stupid, but that's actually part of what made it work. Is that I think people are like, this can't be really what they're doing, can they? And it's like that's how you did it, right?
Yeah, I was like, come on, really? And then it was 5 hours of like, this is what they're doing? Wow. Impressive.
Yeah. So congrats to them. I mean, that's got to make them feel good because there's obviously this fear that like Marvel's jumped the shark and that people don't care anymore. This indicates there are people who care.
275 million seems like.
I mean, a number of those people are going to pirate this movie, but
probably 225 million. Yeah. Or they'll watch like an AI version of it or something. Yeah. Coming off of that, which we discussed briefly on our special episode, Boris Kitt from Hollywood Reporter says that there are more names to still be announced, but they're finalizing contracts. So we'll see who those are. We will find out. Meanwhile, a name I'm definitely going to say wrong, and I apologize in advance. Rachna Frukboom is set to write Marvel Television's Champions, is the word on the streets.
That's great. I love it. I don't know who this person is, but I love this Marvel Studios TV Champions. She
doesn't have a deep well of credits, but she writes for Shrinking. She's also a producer on the show, executive producer. She also wrote and executive produced Fresh Off the Boat and the 2018 Greatest American Hero movie that I never heard of.
I think that was a gender swap.
Was it?
Yeah, I believe it was gender swap. So do you think that White Tiger's niece is going to be in this show?
I was thinking about that today, rewatching the episodes. I could see that 100%.
It's in LA, though. We're pretty certain it's going to be in LA. That's the thing that we think they were setting up in one of these episodes, too, a little bit. So I'm just curious, but it seems like a real possibility.
Seems like a possibility. There's something that happens in these two episodes that I was like, oh, maybe not. But we'll discuss that later.
She dies.
She gets... Daredevil kills her.
All right. What else we got?
We have James Hawes, who's directing some of the Lanterns episodes,
Yeah.
has said that the show doesn't lack sci-fi magic, but it's done in a world where you accept that these things just are. They don't need that extra sprinkle of sci-fi fairy dust. It works within the physical world that we've come to know. So that's how they're handling the Lanterns, I guess.
I mean, that sounds good, right? I mean, the thing is that Green Lantern, when it was created, was science fiction. And
Yep.
so, I mean, to make a science fiction show has science fiction elements that feel possible, quote unquote. I think makes sense.
Well, the way I took it is more like the concept, like he says, to work within the physical world, it doesn't need that extra sprinkle. It gives me the idea that people aren't going to be like, my God, superheroes.
Right.
It's just going to be like, yeah, superheroes have been around for a while, as that is the setup in Superman as well. So a guy running around with a ring, people are going to be like, what is this? Are they filming a movie over here? Like that kind of stuff. I think it's just people accept, yeah, there are people running around with powers.
Nobody's gonna be out there a hobo with a bottle of booze, and he's gonna see something happen, and he's gonna look at the booze and then pour the booze out.
Yep. Yeah.
Classic. Although that actually should be in the show, because that's a classic from the era that Hal Jordan Green Lantern was first created in.
Do you
That's
think
like a real 50s movie thing?
Do you think Back to the Future was the last movie to do that?
There might have been some parody or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it might have been
drunk drivers. I love that guy.
All right. So what else we got?
Rodrigo Perez from the playlist has heard that Marvel's Blade is not happening. They've paused it. They're just not working on it anymore. Blade has been dulled, I guess.
Rodrigo tried to get into a fight with me one time physically.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Somebody else had and I was more than ready to go. Like, I would lose, by the way. This is not a boast.
Yeah.
This is my bad drinking years where I would be angry all the time, and I was ready to go. I might have started it verbally, but he wanted to make it physical. And then somebody had to get in between us and tell us, this is stupid. You guys are idiots. So
there is a bit in Kingpin that fits your life very well.
Yeah.
Where Woody Harrelson, it's towards the end of the movie when they're at the big bowling championship.
Yeah.
And Woody Harrelson's doing an interview with a guy, and the guy's like, oh, you were the best and you disappeared for 15 years. What were you doing all those years? And he thinks for a moment, he goes, drinking. And then it just cuts away. And there you go.
Oh, too close to home. Close to home. So it makes sense that it might be on hold. They're fucking all hands on deck for these Avengers movies.
Yeah.
There's just no space to.
And at a certain point, I wouldn't be surprised if they're just like, this is just not working. Like, how many times are we going to keep trying? We built sets for a movie that we don't have a script for.
Well, the other rumor before Rodrigo said that the movie was not happening was they had hired Chad Stahelski to direct it.
Yeah.
And he's the John Wick guy. He's the good John Wick guy. And
I can see them being like, you're hired. We're not making it. What?
That kind of, well, you know what? That's sometimes how it happens. You get hired or you're brought in for development, and then the studio just doesn't develop it. They just don't do anything. You might be doing stuff, but the studio's not really. And again, all hands on deck for these two Avengers movies. I can't imagine Kevin Feige is spending that much energy elsewhere.
Yeah, I would agree. That he maybe brought him in. He's like, work with Mahershala Ali, figure out what this is going to be. Come back to me in a year after I finish all the Avengers stuff.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if Mahershala Ali ends up in one of these two Avengers movies. If they're going to if they're going to make a Blade.
Yeah.
If they really feel like they're not going to make a Blade, then he won't be in either of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I would not be shocked at all if he pops in. Meanwhile, Ryan Coogler said that Black Panther 3 is on the move. It won't be a long wait. And Denzel Washington's deal hasn't been finalized yet, but it's going to happen as long as Denzel wants it to happen.
I mean, that makes sense. Marvel has Denzel for a Black Panther movie. That is, they'll make that happen. If he signs on the dotted line, they'll make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the level of For the Culture of Denzel in a Black Panther movie. Fucking hell, man! Like that is going to play to packed ass theaters. Like so, yeah.
Yeah. Huge. Back on Lanterns, Jasmine Cephas Jones has joined the series as Jon Stewart's mom when she's younger. So we have two versions of his dad and now two versions of his mom.
I think it's pronounced Cephas, and Cephas is Greek for rock, and that is the name that Jesus gives the apostle Peter. He's upon this rock my church will be built, and then I think Peter is not even his real name. I think Peter also means rock in some other language. Like it's a derivation of.
So essentially, he's the Dwayne Johnson of the.
He is 100%. Well, he also has these two apostles that he calls the Sons of Thunder.
That's pretty cool.
They're brothers. He calls them the Sons of Thunder. Yeah, yeah.
Jesus was real into wrestling, I guess.
Well, and also
team.
There's a theory that Mary Magdalene's not her name, but that it's a nickname that Jesus gave her, which would be based on the idea that she's tall.
Okay.
So, like, I mean, like
Tall Mary.
Yeah, Tall Mary or Big Mary or like, you know what I mean? Like, but I love that Jesus was like running around throwing nicknames at everybody. Like, that's like so cool to me. That's so cool.
He's like, one day they will make a musical about me being a superstar, so we got to have cool names for everybody.
All right, what else we got?
On the Daredevil front, Lily Taylor is joining season 2.
Nice.
Yes.
Like Lily Taylor very much. Always happy to see her working. Yeah.
Yes. She's one of the good ones. That's the Bradley Cooper thing. This, I don't think we discussed this. It's older than our last episode, but we should have discussed it. Colin Farrell's in talks to play Sergeant Rock.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
I mean, I think he'd be great. I think actually the thing we talked about was that like Rock needs to have like a tri-state area accent.
Yeah.
And we know Colin Farrell can do that. So like,
yes.
You know what I mean? And I think, like, would they put makeup on him? Like, you know what I mean? To give him that chiseled look? I don't know. I mean, like,
you have to wear the penguin suit though. That's part of the deal.
I guess the thing is that he has to decide, does he want to do Penguin season 2 and Rock back to back? That's how that scheduling would have to work out.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. I would kind of like, if we're not going to hire an American for the role, I think Colin Farrell could definitely 100% do a fucking good Sergeant Rock voice.
Yeah. Who would be a good American actor for it? I was trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we have a lot of actors who have that face, you know?
Yeah.
I don't really have any American picks for it. I mean, it might be somebody who's like a little bit lesser known, who you're not going to cast as the lead in your Sergeant Rock movie.
Yeah.
He has character actor face, Sergeant Rock. So, I don't
know.
Seth Rogen.
There you go. Bradley Cooper. But Bradley Cooper's like, I'll do it, but I can only be in one scene. Moving on, we have our first good look at the Daredevil black suit that's going to be in season 2. And spoilers, it's got the DD on the chest.
Finally, man.
Yep.
It only took like fucking 10 years.
Just 5 seasons, that's all.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. That's how that goes. And I think that's all the news.
I don't know why he doesn't have it in this show.
I don't know. I don't know why they decided. Maybe they didn't want to move too far away from the Netflix suit because they were worried about how people would react. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but just put the DD on the Netflix suit. Everybody fucking wanted that. Even the people who were like edgelords. They want that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't do it, but now he's got it. They're like, fine, we'll do a black suit again, but he's going to have a big red DD on his chest.
Well, that suit appears to be painted black.
Yes.
It has red spots on it. It looks like Matt painted that suit black.
Yeah, like he spray painted it or something.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what the story is there. We talked about this previously, but there is a storyline called, is it Devil's Reign? Where Matt becomes the head of the hand.
Yeah.
and wears a black suit. So it's possible that that's where that's going.
There you go.
And there is a Muse connection to the hand too. So that would
is
not
there?
be, that would not be out of the realm of possibility.
It's funny. I was thinking the other day, I saw again like a panel or a page from one of the Batman Ninja Turtle crossover comics,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, these did really, really well. These sold very well. Surely somebody in Marvel had to be like, we got to get a Turtles Daredevil comic. I mean, their origins are interlinked. It's crazy we have not done a crossover.
That is crazy. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is right. That is a good point.
Yeah. The hand and the foot team up.
I mean, I kind of would really like to see that. Now
Yeah.
that you mention it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
both DC and Marvel are doing Godzilla crossover comics right now. So it's not like they're afraid to just both do the same thing. You know?
There's one more piece of news you didn't have.
What's that?
The villain of Spider-Man 4 may be known now.
I don't believe that's true.
So here's the deal. This is from Jeff Snyder, who we have talked about in the past as being fairly reliable. He is not a bullshit artist. He is not a guy that makes things up. He has sources. He's often very right about things. He can get things wrong too, but that's just the nature of development, right? Jeff Snyder on his podcast said that we are the Kelce Brothers of movie podcasting. Had to give us a big shout out.
What,
you know,
you
Travis
and I?
Kelce. Yeah, you and I.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very kind of you.
That's very nice, right?
Yeah.
Which one of us is Travis, though? That's the question.
Which one is Travis?
The one
Like
dating
in the Kelce Brothers.
The one dating Taylor Swift.
Well, you're the one that like has a life, so I guess it's you. I'm the lesser known one who's real goofy, right? Because
he's really goofy. Yeah, he's really goofy. He's lovable, man. He's like super lovable. They're both super lovable.
Like I remember seeing shots of him at like not this past Super Bowl, but the one before where he's sitting there shirtless with his gut hanging out and Taylor Swift's sitting next to him. Like, I wouldn't be shirtless because I hate showing skin of any kind. But that would be me. If it was a picture, if it was us and you were dating Taylor Swift and you were playing the Super Bowl, the picture would be me like eating a giant like ice cream or something, and like it's dripping down my shirt.
So Jeff's scoop here is that the villain of Spider-Man 4 is Chameleon, but they're not going to call him Chameleon because Chameleon was technically in Kraven the Hunter, and they want to create a little bit of distance. I don't think they called him Chameleon in that though either. Did they?
They play with it because there's one point where he does like his voice thing where he's like pretends to be somebody else, and Kraven's like, "You've always been a chameleon," which chameleons are not known for doing different voices.
Maybe chameleons are the voice actors of the animal kingdom.
No, they're not. There's the bird, right? Parrots.
Yeah, parrots do that.
He should have been called the parrot in that movie.
I'm gonna say that I want to believe this.
I want to believe it because I would love to see a good Spider-Man street level chameleon movie.
Yeah.
The thing that makes me not believe it is we're going to do the chameleon, but we're not going to call him Chameleon.
I believe 100% because they do that kind of shit all the fucking time.
But I feel like Marvel is past that, where they're like, no, he's Chameleon. It's fine. It's fine. We're just going to call him Chameleon. You know?
Maybe. I don't know. But it would be great if it was.
First of all, I think they'd be like, look, 7 people saw Kraven. Are we really going to be concerned about this?
I think that's part of, I think that they're just like a little gun shy because of Kraven being so shitty.
But nobody saw it. Like there's nothing to be gun shy about. Nobody saw that gun.
I agree. But I'm really hoping Jeff is a good source, a trustworthy source. Again, not always correct.
If he's saying it, that conversation happened. Yeah. In house, right? In Sony or in Marvel or between Sony and Marvel, whether or not that's the direction they're going, who knows? That's something they discussed for sure. Like I don't doubt that is something that was discussed and then he heard about it. You know.
But even if that was discussed, it might still indicate to us we're getting more street level.
Yes, which I would love. I would love street level.
The other rumor
that was a rumor as well is that Spider-Man 4 takes place during the events of Doomsday, and that's why Spider-Man's not in it. Right. But that would also be like, this is why whatever happens at the end of Doomsday has not happened in Spider-Man.
And then the Spider-Man would end with, I'm going to fucking almost bet money that it ends with a white screen to credits, like all of reality is erased. I'm gonna make I'm almost gonna put money on that.
They better not do a white screen.
They will.
They're just ripping off Crisis.
That's how it is in the Secret Wars comic.
Well, get a new idea, Marvel.
I mean,
do your own thing, Marvel.
I think that white is a much better depiction of nothing than black.
I don't disagree. I think they should go. What's that movie with where the other Earth appears and the two Earths are going to crash into each other? Is it called Another Earth?
Well, there's one called Another Earth, and then there's
one with Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst is called. Oh man, I'm also in detention. Yeah, it's a yeah. Man, somebody's yelling at their fucking phone right now.
That's how you want to do a good ending to a Spider-Man movie. Melancholia. Have Spider-Man doing his thing, fighting, street fight, blah blah blah. Movie ends, credits start, post credits. Spider-Man's doing whatever, and then he hears screaming, and he goes outside and he looks up, and there's just another Earth in the sky that's like starting to crack. And then
I mean, that's a good ending. That's a good ending too. Although I really do believe that they're going to try to replicate the last two Avengers movies, which means that the first movie has to end. I mean, we know they lose because we know that we're going to have Battle World in the second one. So Battle World only exists because Doom pulls these pieces of different realities together.
But I'm saying if Spider-Man is taking place at the same time, you can have that happen, and then you hope you all saw Doomsday to see how this turned out, because in Secret Wars, everybody's hanging out in kingdoms for some reason.
So anyway, that's the latest Spider-Man 4 stuff. I mean, who knows what's true at this point? It's kind of wild. Usually we have a better idea by now. There's so many rumors.
There's so many rumors. It's been it's another multiverse thing. It's street level. Every rumor goes back and forth, which I do think shows that, at least as far as insiders know, they are aware of, at least. It seems like they have not solidified what this movie is going to be, and it's supposed to start shooting in a couple of months.
They had not at the beginning of the year. Tom Holland said they were very close, and that they were. He thought that they were going to crack it in the next couple of weeks. So I mean, that is true. There might have been a multiverse version. There might have been a street level version. There might have been a lot of different versions.
I mean, I would not be surprised if they were like, okay, you go write a street level movie, you go write a multiverse movie. We'll see which one's a stronger script, and we'll go from there.
I mean, maybe, yeah. Could be. All right. Do we have letters this week?
We do. If I can find them. Here they are. I
think it's important everybody knows I don't get these in advance. That Derek
does not.
This is my first time hearing these letters.
Yes. Just like Karnak.
Exactly.
This is from Jason. He says, thank you for all you do. I'm glad I'm not alone in being allergic to lists. I just don't have a particular nerd gene, I guess. That's how old this is. This goes back to when we said, please don't ask us to list things.
Oh boy, Jason, sorry you've been waiting around so long, man.
Yes. There was a discussion about this in Discord this past week. People are like, it's good to see that, if I sent in a question, it will come up sooner or later. Because I do bottom, middle, top is how I do it.
Okay.
Do you think we'll ever get an adult Spider-Man in the MCU? I'm a couple years older than Devin, and my experience reading Spider-Man was, in some ways, watching him grow up. I remember an issue in the early 80s with the Red Ghost where grad student Peter, Ramita handsome and confident, tries to take a nerdy younger guy under his wing. It doesn't go well because he's still Peter Parker. I just can't see the current Mr. Stark version doing anything like that. It's not a bad thing necessarily, and I like Tom Holland. It's just that, for me, Spider-Man was always more of a Marvel veteran than a rookie, if that makes sense. Or maybe I'm just a Gen X old man grumbling. So,
I mean, Tom Holland's aging, so he is gonna be the same age as Tom Holland, more or less. I think Tom Holland was playing a little young in Civil War, and in the first Spider-Man.
Yeah, he was not high school age, right?
Right, but he was 6 years older than
so
that,
throughout all three movies, because he's
been
still in high school. Yeah. He's getting ready for college in Far From Home.
That's a good point. So he's playing young. Time passes from Far From Home and where we are now, whenever that movie comes out. I believe also the fact that they made him into classic Spider-Man, where nobody knows his identity and he's living in a shitty apartment by himself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that means we're going to see a different Peter in the next movie. I think we're going to see a Peter who has grown up in a lot of ways. Doesn't rely on anybody else. That's a big part of it, is that they've pulled him away from all support systems.
Yeah.
They killed Aunt May. All the Stark tech is gone. And so he's been pulled away from a support system. So I think we're going to catch up with a Peter who is closer to that 70s Peter when he's in college and stuff.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah.
Charles Villanueva asks, what do you think of the Feige hate festering within the gutters of our Discord? Has Feige lost his touch?
I do not think he's lost his touch. I do think that you do anything long enough, you're going to have losses. You're just going to lose a couple times. It's just the nature of odds. And I think also, we've talked about this before, but like in the last Disney regime where they were being tasked with making a bunch of TV shows, he just was spread too thin. Yeah. And so he could not pay enough attention to everything he needed to pay attention to.
Yeah. I think Marvel and Star Wars both suffered from that, right? Where it was like, we need shows, just get it out. And I personally think we're seeing something of a writing of the ship. Like, Brave New World was not a great movie, but it's solid. It's fine. It's a fine entry. Like, I think it was overly trashed by critics.
Early word on Thunderbolts is that it's quite good.
Early word on Thunderbolts is it's quite good. Fantastic Four looks very good. I'm still worried about Doomsday Secret Wars, partly because they did have to switch so late in the game.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, we're not going to use Kang, we're going to go with Doom. And that makes me a little nervous, a little worried about that. And I don't feel like they've done a good job leading into it. And to me, there's a part of me with Avengers, I'm like, you should have gone back to single movie story.
They didn't do a good job of leading into Infinity War.
No, but they did a good job leading into Infinity War in setting up all the different characters and setting up like what is going on in the universe, where like we had Civil War where the Avengers break up, and we did see like all the different Infinity Stones, right? Like they did.
Yeah, but the thing is that we spent a lot of time with Thanos not getting the Infinity Stones, so that he had to get them all at the beginning of that fucking movie. Which is,
that's
insane.
The whole first movie is just him getting the stones.
It's insane. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, 100. I don't disagree, but what I'm saying here is like the new theory online is, the first movie is going to be more AVX, and it's going to be the Avengers fighting the X-Men, and I've yet to see anyone be like, but there's no Avengers for the X-Men to fight. Like, there's no team. They've done nothing to set up an Avengers team. So this movie will have to set up an Avengers team and like have them fight people and all that. And it's like, but we haven't, like, who would even be that Avengers team? Nobody.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I think the Thunderbolts are going to be the Avengers.
Probably because they have nobody else.
But I'm saying, I think that's going to be part of the story, is that I think they're doing a version of Dark Avengers. Yeah. And I think that, at this point, you can tell from all the trailers that their base is Avengers Tower.
Yes.
That's where that got sold to. And so if you're going to put your super team in Avengers Tower, then it makes sense you're going to call them the Avengers. If there's no Avengers, and if, as we saw in Brave New World, Sam does not want to necessarily work with the government to set up a new Avengers. But here, Val, who is with the government, is going to do that. And I think that there's a clip in one of the trailers where Bucky says, we can't call ourselves that. And it seems like he's responding to calling themselves Thunderbolts, but I will almost guarantee it's somebody saying
to Avengers. Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
So there won't be an Avengers at the beginning of Doomsday. They won't be like, they won't be the Avengers forever. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're going to probably end up getting their asses beat halfway through that movie. If even not even earlier. So that I think is how they're setting up an Avengers team.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's not an impressive Avengers team.
No, I think it's on purpose, though. I think it's totally on purpose, is that they're not an impressive Avengers team. Yeah. And that they're going to lose. And that's going to make Sam have to step up and create a real Avengers. That's my guess.
And then that's going to be the movies, him going around. Be like, hey, you want to be on my team? And they'll be like, I guess. I signed the contract to be in this movie.
All right, what's our last letter?
Oh, our last letter. This is from Stephen Pratt. Who are some of your favorite comic book artists, past and present?
Kevin Maguire. I mean, obviously Jack Kirby. This goes without saying. I love Kevin Maguire.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, there's a bunch. One of the problems is that I don't remember everybody's name, so it's
Yes.
it's a little challenging right now to say.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, who's that guy that did that book? So I'm gonna just leave it at Kevin Maguire. I think Art Adams is maybe my
Great.
actual favorite comic
Yeah.
book artist, and he never works. Is he retired?
I believe he's
Is he
retired.
just do like? Is he just do like pinups and shit now?
I think he just does like pinups and conventions. I think that's all he does now.
He was never super prolific because of the nature of his art, but
Yeah.
he has my very favorite art in, I think, the whole history of comics.
He is one of those guys that is extremely important to the craft and never seems to get the credit he deserves.
Yeah.
It's one of the interesting things on the Rob Liefeld podcast is how often he talks about Art Adams and being like, if there's no Art Adams, there's no John Byrne. If there's no John Byrne, there's no next generation of artists.
Yeah,
Like,
no, 100%. And I think
you know.
Art Adams really did the thing that Art Adams did, I think, was that he bridged cartoony and realistic and really made it work in a way that felt powerful and big.
Yeah.
Like you can draw a direct line from him to Brian Hitch and that whole widescreen era of comics.
Well, I always think of, like, whenever I look at Frank Quitely art, I think of Art Adams.
Yeah.
You know, because they both had that ability to do, like, things felt thick.
Yeah.
You know, guys, like, everybody felt beefy and like, oh yeah, they're taking up space.
I like Frank Quitely, but I hate his lips.
Yes.
Every character has just these luscious lips that just they drive me crazy for some reason. I don't know why he draws every character with these luscious lips.
I don't know.
I also like John Romita Jr. a lot.
Yes, John Romita Jr. classic.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously John Romita, the dad, I think drew the best Peter Parker.
Yeah.
But John Romita Jr., I just love his style because it is like, it's also blocky and it's like rough around the edges in a way that I think is really appealing.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I would toss in for myself, Matt Wagner. Absolutely one of the greats. Guy Davis, one of the greats. Greg LaRocca, personal favorite. Of current days, you have Dan Mora, who's been doing a lot of stuff for DC, and he is amazing. Phil Jimenez is great. There's another artist whose last name is Jimenez. I can't remember his first name. He's on Superman right now. He's amazing. For classics, I mean, yeah, Kirby, Ditko, Romita, Kurt Swan.
Yeah, Kurt Swan's
really, can't be beat.
Yeah.
You know, Carmen Infantino.
Yeah,
amazing work. Jim Aparo.
I like the guy doing Absolute Batman.
Yes, he's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
And like he's obviously drawing ludicrous looking Batman and Bane, but that's like fun. Like I like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm okay with it. Yeah. I finally saw a picture of the new Absolute Bane.
He's gigantic.
But he's got a tiny little pea for a head. He's so big, and they have the littlest head I've ever seen.
Little tiny head. I love it.
It's so crazy.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. I've really been enjoying that book a lot. Like I read issues 4 and 5 this past week, and they are great issues. They are some of Scott Snyder's best work, I think. Nice. And especially issue 4, which has a lot of flashbacks to young Bruce Wayne and the trial for Joe Chill after Joe Chill does a mass shooting at a zoo and kills Thomas Wayne. And there's a whole flashback sequence of that stuff. And it was really, really well done and really cool. Really just like real good emotional stuff.
I think it's really smart if you're updating Batman's origin that it's a mass shooter. I think it's really smart.
That's one thing. Whatever they do with Batman in the DCU, I really think that's something that they should pull into it. You know, don't do, they're walking down, they're billionaires walking down a rancid alley.
Yeah.
You know, because their driver couldn't show up in front of the theater for some reason.
Darling, let's check out this quaint crime alley.
Yes. Yeah. And instead do a mass shooting. I think that's a much more interesting,
Yeah.
much more uh, uh, connected to today feel to
But
it.
also, I think it's a really systematic crime. It's connected to failure on so many levels
Yeah.
that, like, Batman needing a Batman makes more sense when you start thinking about how society failed 100 different places to make that happen.
To have this happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, a crime is a crime. Like that, every society in history has had crime. It's just the deal. But mass shootings, kind of mass crimes like that, murders like that, are new.
They're very modern.
And not just because people didn't have guns, but because, like, people just didn't, like, fucking wade into a crowd and stab a bunch of people back then. They just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that speaks to a failure that Batman could try to address. That's more than just like, oh, we have criminals in this city. Yeah, no shit, you have criminals in this city. It's a fucking city. I have Next Door, and every now and again, there's somebody one of the big things they love to complain about on Next Door is somebody came to my door and rang the bell, and it was a black teen. He was claiming to sell candy. And I'm like, A, he probably was. B, you live in fucking Los Angeles. Like, just deal with it, man. Like, somebody rang your doorbell. You're going to be okay. You're going to be all right. Somebody else had all these video of a bunch of guys doing skateboarding in the courtyard of her apartment building and filming it. And she's like, these creeps made me feel unsafe. I'm like, well, how do you feel unsafe with some dudes skateboarding? They're doing ollies. Like, this is not that hard. It's like, and she yelled, what happened is she yelled out the window at them, and they were like, fuck you, which is like what skaters are going to do.
Yeah, it's what teenagers do. Yeah.
Well, they were older than teenagers. They were in their 20s.
All right, even 20-year-olds are going to do that. Yeah.
I mean, skaters are going to do that at any age.
Yeah.
It was just like really one of these. Yeah, I mean, that's living in a city. You're just going to have that. It's just the deal.
Yeah.
So
that's something I think about a lot as I get older is, our generation when we were young, we're like, we're not going to be like that. We're going to be different. And then watching over time, our generation turn into that.
Our generation is worse than that because our generation is one of the biggest supporters of Trump.
Yeah.
Very bad.
Really
very,
hurts.
very
really
uncool
hurts.
Gen X. Very uncool.
Yeah. Real fucked up.
But it's funny because I actually, one of the things about the 60s is that everybody's like, oh, it's all hippies, but it really wasn't. It was like minority hippies.
Yeah.
And the 90s was also minority punks and grunge. That was minority. People listened to that music, but they weren't in that lifestyle and they didn't have those values.
Yeah.
And so, we keep saying Gen X.
The Nirvana song about that, right?
Yeah.
He knows all the words. Well, I can't remember the lyrics.
He knows all the words to our pretty song. He likes to shoot his gun. Yeah. I mean, that's very much I mean, Kurt Cobain put a liner note in, I think it was In Utero, or maybe it was that posthumous one, where it was like, if you hate minorities and women and gay people, I don't want you listening to this record. You're not part of my team. Like, I get out of here. Yeah. And that caused back then ruckus, which is before the internet. So the fact that you heard about ruckus means that there was
ruckus. Although back then we still had MTV News, so we would find out this.
Yeah, but even still, like, we didn't have, like, the modern media thing is like one person goes on Twitter and says this is offensive, and then it becomes people are saying it's like this guy said this guy.
Yeah. Space Cowboy 43. Who gives a shit? Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Are you ready to talk about the next 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again?
Yeah, I guess so.
Let's do it. Daredevil Born Again, Season 1, Episodes 5 and 6, with interest and excessive force. We're going to probably not go as in detail on the recap because we have 2 episodes to get through, and I don't want to make a 3-hour episode, frankly.
Why did they do 2 episodes?
I guarantee because they felt that people were going to be angry about Episode 5.
Okay.
Because they thought people would be like, what the fuck is this? This is not taking the story forward at all. People love the idea that every episode must push the story forward. And it does push the story forward, but it does it in a character way, which a lot of viewers just can't fucking roll with.
Yeah.
They need to actually have, like, plot developments. So we're going to just not go as in depth as we might normally go. Before we begin, I want to talk about the character of Muse.
Sure.
So he is a character created by Charles Soule, and this is important to know. In the comics, He has superpowers.
He should have superpowers in this too.
I mean, but here's the deal. One of his superpowers is that his body sucks in all sensory information around it, making it really hard for Daredevil to detect him.
Yeah, that'd be useful.
But he might have that because there is a scene in the end of episode 6 where he gets up and leaves, and Daredevil's not aware of it.
Sure.
You know, I mean, that seems crazy, right? So he might have that sensory power.
It would be great if in general on the show they explained anybody's powers.
Well, here's the deal is that Muse's stuff is never explained. Muse's stuff is straight never explained. We don't even know who he is.
But I mean, even like Daredevil, like I know this is a sequel to the Netflix show, but if you came into the show not having watched the Netflix show, and even arguably if you watch the Netflix show, you have no idea. Like you'd be watching this and be like, this guy's deaf and he can hear really well. Blind. Like this guy's blind and he can hear really well. Like they've done nothing to show like, oh, by the way, he's got, radar sense and stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I would like to see that become more clear. But so the thing about Muse is that his appearance is exactly the same in the comic, which is really funny because you can tell that he's based on hipsters.
Yes,
because he has the beanie and the suspenders, and it's like straight up hipsters, demonizing hipsters.
Yeah, he's definitely hanging out in Brooklyn. Yeah,
he's also super strong. He is super fast, and he can maybe climb walls like Spider-Man.
Oh, there you go.
So he has those powers. He appears a couple of times in the comics. The first time he appears in the comics, there's a character named Blind Spot who's like a kung fu vigilante, and Muse pokes his eyes out. And when Daredevil comes angry at him, Muse breaks his own fingers and says, "That's what you wanted, right? To stop me from being artistic. So here, I'll break my own fingers for you."
Wow.
He goes to prison. He's taken by the Inhumans because he had killed a bunch of Inhumans. And then he breaks out and he once again fights Blind Spot. But for whatever reason, when the fight ends, he feels like it didn't go the way he wants it to go. So he walks into fire and kills himself.
Sure.
So you would think that might be the end of Muse, but it is not.
No, it's comics.
He goes to hell. And in hell, he gets in touch with this artistic woman who is also maybe sociopathic, and he becomes like her inner voice and begins appearing to her as a ghost to like egg her on to killing people and like continuing his mission.
Okay.
So that's the latest on Muse.
There you go.
I don't think he's going to go to hell in this show.
Who knows? We'll finally get Mephisto.
I mean, that would be wild though. Like Daredevil has been the most, again, grounded because it's often afraid of being fantastical show. And then maybe to have like a season where like Daredevil's in hell would be fucking amazing. So fucking good.
I will say one of my problems, and I enjoyed these 2 episodes, but one of my problems with these 2 episodes, and this is an ongoing problem I've had since the Netflix show, and it's continued into here, is that Daredevil is a super ninja who can't take out a basic thug without a 5-minute fight.
So that happens in episode 5. Episode 6, if we're going to assume that Muse has some version of his powers.
I'm not going to assume that because they do nothing to suggest that.
But I think actually I don't mind that because that could be a discussion happening next episode where he's like, I don't understand. I couldn't even detect this guy. You know what I mean? Like, I beat the shit out of him and he just kept getting back up. I mean, I'm going to wait till next episode to see if anybody mentions.
I mean, he definitely can detect the guy. We know that for sure.
Well, he can detect him in the comics. It just can be hard.
Okay.
And
he detects him from like 50 yards out.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that's something he could turn on and off in the comics. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe when he's concentrating, he can do that. So I mean, I'm gonna wait till next episode to take a conclusion on that because Daredevil doesn't have any time to get into any kind of conversation or any kind of like thing.
I disagree. There's a very easy way to set that up.
What's that?
When they're the scene with Fisk where they're like, yeah, this guy who keeps painting stuff, it's all blood, blah, 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 blah. The thing that you can put in there is like, how is he making these giant murals and nobody sees him do them? It's got to take him hours, if not days. And so you start to set up the idea there that later on you can reveal, oh, he does the sensory deprivation thing that people just don't see him, and that's how it works.
I mean, yeah, maybe. Maybe that would have been a thing to do. Anyway, so our first episode opens up with Matt Murdock trying to get a loan.
Yes.
This gives some information about how they afford their offices and stuff. They're living on loans. Yeah. And he ends up talking to Kamala Khan's dad, Yusef Khan. And they have a very nice conversation. And Yusef says something I think is really great, where he's like, the things that you do, helping the poor, being there for people who can't take care of themselves, are exactly why we can't give you a loan, because you don't make any money doing this. Like, we need you to pay us back this loan.
Yes.
And so Matt is like dejected, but he calls Karen, not Karen, McDuffie. I forget her first name. Kirsten.
Yep.
And he's like, hey, got turned down again, but I got a couple more banks to hit. And as soon as Matt leaves the bank, a bunch of Irishmen bust in and start robbing the bank.
These Irishmen are, by the way, starring in a mid-budget thriller.
They're starring in a movie that came out in 2009.
Yeah.
And that the writer says, I was drawing a lot of inspiration from Tarantino.
Clive Owen would be in this movie.
Yes, Clive Owen is 100% in this movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
He would be the negotiator or something. Yeah.
One of my problems...
it is very much... It's a very similar format to the Spike Lee movie Inside Man. And I'm 99% sure that they filmed in the same bank and streets.
Yeah, makes sense.
As Inside Man.
One of my problems with this episode, and it's a minor one, I can let it go, is that Matt's hearing is too good.
Yeah.
Like, he hears things, like he's 4 levels underground at one point, and he can hear everything going on up in the lobby.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't buy it. Like, I know you have super hearing, but that's like Superman super hearing.
Yes.
Like, those sound waves aren't even getting down here. Like, they're not hitting us down here. So, and then again, when the opening, when he hears people screaming inside the bank, I'm like, come on, like, those walls are thick. Like, I just don't believe that sound is getting out.
Yeah, he should have just been in the bank when it happens.
Well, the thing is, I like the decision to make him turn around and go in.
I like the decision to do that, and you need it for him because he's on the phone and he says, like, hey, call 911. So they set that all up, but then there are things that are like, really, these guys didn't lock the door?
Yeah, that's really funny. I kind of wish he had come in like from the roof, like Daredevil style.
And then came out of the hallway. And then when Yusef's like, I thought you left, he'd be like, I went to the bathroom. Like,
yeah,
and that would be it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like that he decides to come back, because this is an episode that really is about Matt getting back into heroism.
Yes.
Or maybe for the first time getting into heroism, seeing how the Netflix show usually went. So now we have this thing. We have this Irish guy that runs it. They end up with the whatchamacallits, the police out front, and they have a negotiator.
Yeah.
And the negotiator's trying to buy time. They want a bunch of Humvees to take them, I guess, to the airport. And he's like, I'll give you 10 more minutes if you make me laugh. And she tells him a pretty good Irish joke.
Yeah.
And he definitely appreciated that. One thing I liked about this episode is that these guys are proddies.
Yes.
I like that. Like, traditionally, if you have Irish bad guys, they're all Catholics. It's always Catholics every single time. But these guys are Protestants. They don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And I thought that was really kind of a nice touch. I thought that was good. Really appreciated that.
I thought that was good. And I thought they do a really good job of the negotiator trying to get personal information out of him without calling attention to it, where she says like, oh, I didn't know they had the, NYPD rule book in Belfast. Like, she's clearly trying to get the guy to say where he's from so they can get more info on him and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that stuff's really good. Matt in the bank, the one thing about Matt in the bank, he's so fucking calm that it's suspicious. It's crazy suspicious how calm this guy is.
Yeah.
And he's kind of talking back to the bank robbers and stuff. He's giving them a hard time. And then when the cops want hostages released to show faith, they're going to send Matt out because he's blind.
As the head of the gang says, I don't like you.
I don't like you because Matt's been a real pain in the ass the whole entire. He is just lawyering them.
Yeah.
constantly lawyering them, and which I liked a lot. And
Yes.
I definitely really appreciated that, and I appreciated they were really fucking mad about it. Like that was
I
really.
like I like when Matt gives them his entire life story and the guy's like, Jesus. He's like, no, I was an orphan. I was raised in an orphanage.
He's
Now I'm
blind.
blind. He's like, oh my God. He's like, you're a character right out of
Charles Dickens.
Charles Dickens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really good.
Yeah.
I love that a lot.
Which made me realize, like, I think Daredevil is the saddest origin of all Marvel heroes. Blind, orphan, everything in his life is constantly like Spider-Man's got nothing on the
I don't know.
life
Spider-Man got
of
his uncle
Matt
killed.
Murdock. Yeah, Spider-Man got his uncle killed, but Spider-Man still had like a loving aunt and like whatnot.
Yeah.
Matt had nothing. And then as he gets older, anyone that comes close to him is just murdered or becomes a drug addict. Like that's his entire life.
Yeah, he's got a hard time. He's got a hard time. So they want to send Matt out because he's blind and they don't like him. But Matt successfully lawyers them into sending out a couple, which again I liked a lot. Like I like the fact that they know he's a lawyer, and they know he's lawyering them, but he's so good at it that they can't help but do what he says. Like I thought that was really, really terrific. So the deal is they want to go to the vault. The thing is, the vault, though, we find out, has no money in it. All that it has is safe deposit boxes.
Yes.
Which would be useless to these guys because you need a key for the safe deposit box. So they want to go down and they take Yusef down to the vault. Yusef, they were like, what, who knows how to open the vault? You know how to open the vault? And Yusef, I guess, trying to be really helpful and like stall or something, was like, yeah, I do, but he doesn't.
No,
he actually
he's
does not
the
know.
assistant bank manager, so he does not know. Which I feel like more than one person at the bank has to know the vault code, right?
I would say there's one person per shift.
You think? But Yusef also has the key for the safety deposit boxes.
Well, the thing is that probably
unless they just didn't show it. Like, oh, we have to go to the bank manager's office and get the key.
That might be the case, or it might be that traditionally the manager opens the vault in the morning. If all they have in there is safety deposit boxes, you have the door open, people can close it but not lock it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the deal. So he gets taken downstairs. He does not know what the fuck he's doing, and Matt's like, "Don't worry, like just stall them as long as you can." And Matt says he has to go pee-pee.
Yes.
And they're very irritated that he has to go piss.
Well, I love how that bit starts because he's standing there and like, what are you standing for? He's like, I have to go. And like, you could have just left. Just have it. He's like, no, I have to go to the bathroom. I like that. That was a good little bit.
Yeah, it was really great. And so they send a guy down with Matt, and he's leading him down to the bathroom, which is downstairs. And Matt starts busting out moves on this guy, and he knocks the guy's gun out of his hand. The gun falls between the railings of the stairs that they're on. They have a fight. Matt uses what appears to be his favorite move in these two episodes, which is choking somebody out. It's like he does that twice in these two episodes. And he beats the shit out of this guy, knocks him out. There's a really amazing bit where the gun gets knocked and it's gonna fall and make a ton of noise, and he has to grab it, and he does it really well.
He knocks the guy down and they slide down the stairs and he catches it. I was like, that's very cool.
It's really cool. Yeah. It's a very cool fight. Like, and it's not like super brutal, but it's just like cool, and it's because he's trying to be quiet is part of it. Like you can't like fucking do spin kicks on a guy's head when you're trying to be quiet as shit. So he beats the guy up and he takes his, does he take that guy's walkie-talkie?
I believe so. Either him or the next guy. I don't know which. He takes off his mask.
Yeah, he takes his mask, which he's going to use later on. And he goes downstairs. Yusef is trying to buy time. He is like, hey, maybe I need a granola bar.
He's like, do you want to know the history of the bank?
It's really good. I really like this episode a lot.
I love, this is the kind of thing that comics used to do every now and again, and maybe they still do it from time to time, but I don't think it's as common anymore, where like a supporting cast member of someone's comic would show up in another person's comic for like an issue. And that's what this is. This is, oh, here's Kamala Khan's dad. And by the way, you didn't know this from her show, but he works in a bank, and now this bank is being robbed and he's part of that. Right. And like, I like that. I enjoy that kind of interconnectivity of the universe. That's pretty fun. I think.
Yeah, a lot of people have been complaining about it. They're like, "Why don't you just bring Kamala Khan in to rescue her dad?" Like, and I'm like, "No, that's not fun. Like, that's not
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
What's fun is, yeah, like this creates the sense of a larger world. Like,
Yeah.
Daredevil can run into her dad. Like, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. By the way, he is very proud of her.
He's very proud of her, which I love.
And
I love he's got the homemade like Funko.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's great because now he knows who she is
Yeah.
because the events of the
Well, he
Marvels.
knows in the
That's
show.
right. He goes in the show,
Yeah.
but then they really get to see her in action in the Marvels. Like
Yeah.
he gets to go to space in the Marvels.
Yes. Yeah.
This assistant bank manager, been to space.
Hung out with Nick Fury.
That's
Helped cats eat people.
that's the shit I like, man. That's it. Like,
Well, here's funny fact. Yusef Khan has shown up in more MCU stuff than his daughter, Miss Marvel. He's been in 3 things. She's been in 2.
I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, makes
Pretty
sense.
wild. Pretty wild.
So Matt, the guy that who's like with Yusef is really losing his patience. And Matt beats that guy up and
Just takes him out one hit. Matt remembers he's a super ninja. He can take out people with one hit.
I know, it's really funny. So he knocks that guy out, and then he's like, "We can't go back upstairs empty-handed. Like, there's no way." So he goes and he does super Daredevil safe cracking, which is really great. And I like the fact that he can have like Yusef yapping,
Yeah,
and it doesn't bother him. Like I kept expecting him to say, "Hey, quiet! I need to hear."
Yeah,
but no, his hearing is so strong that he can just focus it in that direction. I like that a lot, and that he wasn't mean to Yusef.
Well, it's hearing and touch. Like he can feel the tumblers because he's got his hands.
Tumblers. Yeah. He's got both. He's got both going on, and so he is able to very quickly open that giant safe. And then they go in there and they have to figure out. So now they figure out that this was an inside job. They have the key. That guy has the key on his person, and they get it. The problem is they don't know which.
The key's number is
4 something. They can't quite read it.
Yeah, it's like it's sanded down or like worn away from time, so they know it's 4. But there's like, what does he say? There's like 19,000 boxes in there or whatever. So they're gonna have a lot to go through.
I have a complaint about this. A really nerdy one. Yeah, Matt Murdock could rub his thumb on that and know what the numbers are.
Yeah,
unless it has been professionally sanded down to absolute total flatness.
Yeah,
I guarantee that, Matt Murdock's thing, like in the comics, the thing that's always stuck with me is that he could touch a pretzel and tell you how many pieces of salt are on it.
Yeah,
like that's how sensitive his touch is and how like specific it is. So I do believe that if Matt just rubbed his thumb on it, they would have the number.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's fine because it sets up a situation where Yusef gets to do something. And I love how it's set up, which is that they keep trying boxes and they're all not right. And then the one time that Yusef calls on Allah, he gets it. I love that.
Yes.
I thought that was really great. That was really, really great. And they now have it. And what's inside there is a diamond, a giant diamond of some kind or gem of some kind.
Yes.
They go back upstairs and they pretend that they were peeing together, and but it very quickly becomes clear that that is not real.
All of a sudden, the 2 guys that were with them are gone.
Yeah, they're gone. And so, but while this is happening, another cop shows up at the scene and overrules the negotiator and says, "We're fucking going in."
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, you're going to kill people if you go in right now." I like that. Like, I don't mind if the cops do something stupid. I need one person to say this is stupid. I need one person to say that.
I have a bit of a problem with this sequence.
Yeah.
In that, like, as the cops are getting ready to bust in and Matt is talking to the head of the hostage takers of the bank robbers, Matt says to him, "When was the last time you spoke to the hostage negotiator?" And the guy should have said, "About 2.5 minutes ago when she told me a joke." Because that happened about 2.5 minutes ago.
I think it was longer than that.
He
gives her 10 minutes at that point.
No, he says 3 minutes to come up with a joke. And if you make me laugh, I'll give you another 3 minutes. Right. So that's happened. And as she's telling the joke, Matt is downstairs doing the fighting stuff. So there's not a lot of time between these moments, And so It's a weird, like, clearly the idea is that this has been going on for a while now, but they don't do a good job in this episode giving the sense that a lot of time has passed.
I mean, one of the things is that I think a hostage negotiator doesn't want to get off the line.
Yeah.
Like, they want to stay on the line. Like, they're going to keep talking to you if they can. So, I mean, like, if they go silent, that might mean that they're doing something. But anyway, Matt figures out, because he can hear the cops outside planning to bust in, and he is like, it's really good because they're going to shoot Matt in the head with their rifle, and the bank robber is counting down, and that also the cops are counting down, and on his one, the cops bust in, throwing some tear gas or some smoke, and it's mayhem.
Yeah,
absolute
Matt throws the diamond in the air.
That's really great. He throws the diamond in the air, like distracting them in that moment. And now there's chaos, and then Matt has my favorite bit in the whole episode. There's like one of the bank robbers is like standing next to a column, and Matt just comes up from behind him, slams his head into the column, and keeps walking.
Yeah,
like that's really cool. I love that.
That's great
like,
stuff.
Terrific.
We skipped actually my favorite moment of the episode.
What's that?
Which is when Matt gets down to the safe and knocks out the guy that's with Yusef. And like he takes him out in one hit, and then Matt turns to Yusef, and something I do not believe they would have done in a Netflix show. He turns to Yusef and he goes, "Who?" like he just does like a, "Oh, that was crazy, huh?" like kind of bad. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like that. Well, the thing is that this episode is the kind of story I like a lot, which is the superhero in his civilian identity gets involved in some shit and has to protect his secret identity.
Yes.
And so when Matt goes, "Who?" he's obviously pretending that this is not a thing he does every fucking night. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that really worked out. Wow.
Yeah, that's really, and that's great. You know, there's a lot of chaos. The head of the robbers goes and slips away, and it turns out he's wearing a cop uniform underneath his workman outfit.
Yeah, his onesie.
His onesie.
And once again, if I remember correctly, that's what they do in Inside Man.
Probably.
Yeah.
And he goes and he just kind of strolls out from the bank. And meanwhile, it turns out that one of the hostages was the Inside Man. And it's this woman. And she also goes out. And Matt picks that up pretty quickly. Matt has a hard time because he wants to go out, but the cops won't let him leave, which is 100% what would happen. Nobody leaves this fucking crime scene. And he has to do, "I'm blind. I hit my head," which I really like.
And the other guy's like, "He's one of us. He was a hostage." And then they let him out, which the cops do not do a good job of here, because the bank robber who's now dressed as a cop just walks away. Matt just walks away. And the lady who has the diamond just walks away.
Yeah.
And you guys got to round up everybody. You got to be a lot more like the guy dressed as a cop. I can get that. They'd be like, "Oh, he's one of us. He's just checking like the surrounding area or whatever." But like, you have two hostages who just leave the scene.
Yeah, no, it's bad. The cops are not good. Matt follows the bank robber, and he's like honed in on his footsteps. And as Matt gets faster and faster, he does a thing I like a lot, which is he pulls off his glasses and folds up his cane.
Yes.
Because he's going to fucking book it now. And he cannot be a blind guy running down the street.
No.
Which is really great, though. He catches up with the guy, and they have a big fight. And
he puts the mask on.
He puts the mask on. He puts that, and it's red. That's not an accident.
Yes.
That mask is red. I don't know what he thinks he's doing putting that mask on, frankly.
In case anybody else comes down the street.
But
that's
like,
this
guy knows he's the blind guy.
No, this guy knows who he is. But if anybody like passes by, he doesn't want them to be like, "Hey, this is what the guy who beat him up looked like."
They have a fight that goes on, frankly, too long. I don't mind when a hero has a hard time in a battle for dramatic purposes. I do think this goes on too long.
Yes.
And Matt kind of like gets hit a bunch in ways that I just...
Yeah, I mean, he's a super ninja. And he can't take out like an Irish bank robber in like 2 hits.
I mean, maybe the argument is that he's rusty because he was not doing anything for a year. He only just picked up training last episode.
The only reason that does not work for me is because this was the same kind of thing on the Netflix show.
Yeah.
Where he just could not take out anybody in 2 seconds. Like, it was like, he'd be like, "Oh, here's this strung out heroin addict. It's going to take me 5 minutes to beat this guy up."
The thing is that this is like a real like martial arts movie thing, like where the master hero has a hard time. But what they usually do is they throw 10 guys against him.
Well, and also in comics, right? Like if you have a a hero who's going up against a villain who does not have powers. Right? If Batman goes up against Joker, Joker's always got a bunch of henchmen with him, and Batman's got to deal with all the henchmen, right? Like that's kind of part of the deal,
Right.
And that's also often the deal with Daredevil,
right?
But they don't do that in these 2 episodes. He's just fighting people one-on-one and just can't beat them up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love it. I mean, again, Muse in the comics has powers, so it's possible this Muse has powers.
Yeah.
This show is less afraid of being a superhero show than the Netflix version was.
Yeah.
So that we'll find out about that. But yeah, this guy should not be this big a problem for Matt.
No, it should have been a 2-second fight. He definitely does not need to destroy his leg.
I mean, I kind of like it though.
I like the bottle bit. I did not like the leg bit. The leg bit looked far too painful to me.
The bottle was crazy. That was really crazy. But
there was a part of me when he did the bottle that I wish Matt was like, "Oh, I didn't see that there." Like, "Oh, I didn't realize there was a bottle right there, and I could have just murdered you."
So I don't know. I kind of love the leg thing. I really kind of do.
That was too graphic for me. I was like, "Ugh."
That's why I liked it. It was graphic. And I kind of like the idea that, like, unlike Spider-Man, he doesn't have webbing to tie this guy up. So how does he make sure this guy stays here for the cops? I'm going to break your fucking leg.
Yeah.
Like, and he badly breaks that leg. It's really
like that dude is done. That dude will not be walking comfortably ever again.
Yeah, they're putting pins in his bones. Yeah, it's very, very bad.
Because he lands right on the knee and it just bends backwards.
And then we flash forward. And Matt comes back to the bank to talk to Yusef.
Well, first we see the lady with the diamond, but she's got a piece of Yusef's candy.
Oh, that's right. We see that she pulls the candy out, the candy had been a big thing earlier in the episode. Yusef's trying to give Matt some candy, and Matt's like, no, thank you. So we now flash forward, and Matt is back to talk to Yusef. Yusef's like, I still can't give you this loan. And we're very thankful for you, which I was loved because I was really worried that was going to be how
that's why I thought it was going to be. He's like, oh, you saved us, and the bank has agreed.
But he's like, no, I still can't give you a loan. And Matt's like, no, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to check in on you. And Yusef's like, oh my God, that's so nice. And he invites Matt out to dinner with his family, which we're never going to see. But I really wish we did.
If I was in control of the universe, we would get a 15 to 20 minute thing of just the Khans and Matt Murdock having dinner.
Oh, 100%.
I would love to watch that. Just him at their house having dinner. The parents are there, the brother's there, the brother's wife is there, Kamala's there, and everyone's just eating and having a good time.
But the problem is that this episode really upset the hardcore fans. They hated this episode.
That's crazy.
And they would really hate an episode like that with a 20-minute dinner sequence.
Well, I don't even think it should be an episode. I think it should be like...
Something like 20-minute dinner sequence would drive these people fucking nuts.
Oh, no, but I'm saying you should do it like the... those bits that they did because Thor was not in Civil War, where they did the little like 10, 15 minute short of like, oh, here's Thor living with his roommate and the things
they're not
they're
doing
up
those
to.
Things anymore.
No, and that's too bad because this would be a perfect setup for that.
That would be so expensive. But anyway, he goes back and he's like, you know what? I'm going to finally try one of these candies. And he takes it and he leaves. And
he eats it. He goes, which I liked as well. He's like, "Oh, this is good." And I like that Matt is a little more human in this show.
I like this Matt, and I feel like Charlie Cox finally has a version of Matt Murdock to play that is charming. That he has the complexity still,
yes,
but he's not just suffering every single scene.
Yes,
and that's nice. Like Daredevil is charming. He's a swashbuckler like that. Oh Jesus, sorry. Like I love that, and I'm really glad that that's the version they're doing here, and that he gets to have these things where he can have fun.
Yeah.
So Yusef goes and looks in the jar of candies, the dish of candies, and he discovers that missing diamond or gem or whatever it is sitting right there. I love that Matt has just done like a magic trick both times with putting the candy in the whatchamacallit, the little bag, and then putting the gem in the dish. I love that. It's just
great.
So great.
It's great.
And that's pretty much the end of our episode.
That's it.
I love this episode, man.
I thought it was a very fun episode, a very enjoyable episode. Again, there's the time issue, and there was a part of me at first when he's like, okay, this guy's going to take me down to the bathroom. I thought there was going to be a deal there where like you take that guy out real quick, and the rest of the episode would be him taking out the bank robbers one by one and silently. And I was like, that's gonna be fun to see him like do like ninja stuff.
Yeah, but that doesn't make any sense because I feel like they would not just keep sending guys. Do you know
No,
what I
no,
mean?
it would be him like moving around the bank silently and like coming up behind a guy and taking him out and like
I don't know. That bank is
doing
too
different
wide
stuff.
open. I don't
No,
think that you could
yeah,
sneak
yeah,
around.
yeah.
And also, one of those hostages is an inside person. She would fucking
Yes,
rat him out.
yeah,
He doesn't know that, but like story wise, I think you kind of couldn't. Like I thought this would be like Die Hard. So I felt the same way. I thought this was going to be Matt doing stuff,
yeah.
but I kind of like the way that it works out. Like I don't mind that it isn't just a bunch of silent takedowns. It's not
No,
the Metal Gear
it
Solid.
works well. It works well, but I just it bothers me that every fight that Matt has is a massive fight. That he can't take people like he takes out the guy who's with Yusef real quick, but everybody else it's always like a 3 minute, 5 minute fight, and it's like, dude, you're a super ninja. This should not be difficult for you
Yeah,
to
I
take
know. I
out
mean,
some like
it's the
Irish
drama. They
producers.
do it for the drama, and it's
Yeah,
because if he just takes everybody out with one hit, it's just not climactic. If he caught that head of the bank robbers and just punched him in the face and he's down, it's not that. It's just
no,
anticlimactic. Like
yeah,
the audience wants fights. They want
yeah,
fights that last. They want to see moves. And
yeah,
so again, it's like martial arts movies, like where like guys who should not have a hard time against certain guys will because you want to have these great fight scenes. You know.
yeah.
The next episode is called Excessive Force. It has, I think, the longest cold open of any of these episodes. It goes on forever.
It does go on for a while.
We see a sanitation guy finding a body of Muse's victim who we had seen previously.
I have to wonder if there was a problem with props that day.
Why?
Because it's they're in Red Hook. It looks like it's Red Hook again, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like a destroyed building, right? So it's giant pieces of rubble. And the guy comes walking up with a broom. I was like, do they want him to sweep all the rubble away? Like, what is the plan with that broom?
Yeah.
Because you're just on piles of rocks, like huge rocks. But yeah, he's like, here's my broom.
So it's the guy that we saw Muse take in a previous episode, and he has his eyes gouged out. And
Yes.
Then we cut to another sanitation crew trying to take down one of Muse's murals.
Yes.
This one specifically, that's about Mayor Fisk. And we see them having a hard time doing it. And then we cut back to Matt, and he's praying.
Yes.
And this is a prayer. Saint Ive is a French saint who was a lawyer before he became a priest, and then he kept lawyering as a priest.
Oh.
So there's a great story. The Widow of Tor is the great story about Saint Ive. It's not a miracle story. It's just like, this is like a clever story. So this woman who runs like a boarding house or an inn has these two guys come in. They're named Roe and Doe in the story. And they say, we have this box full of treasure and we want to leave it with you, but we want you to swear that you will only give it to us if both of us ask for it. And she's like, sure, why not? They leave. One of them comes back and says, hey, the other guy couldn't make it. He's busy, but I'm here to pick up the box. And so the woman was like, well, I trust these people. They seem nice. And so she gives the guy the box. Turns out it was a whole big scam. And they they sue her saying like, you broke the thing. And like the one guy ran off with the money and they want her to pay for all the treasure that was in there, but she can't afford it. And so she's like freaking out and she ends up meeting Saint Ive, and Saint Ive is like, listen, you should have not given that guy the box, but you're a good person. So I'm going to represent you. And they go to court, and it's the one guy who did not get the box who's in court. And he's like, this lady promised us, and we acted in good faith, yada, yada, yada. And so Saint Ive, when it's his turn, he goes, okay, if the presence of both of you is so important, can we find the other guy and bring him in here? And that guy's like, no, we don't need to do that. But they do find that guy. And it turns out that the box is full of junk. And this is just a fucking scam they're running on people. And Saint Ive just like fucking lawyered his way through the whole thing. There's no miracle. There's no God in there. And that's like having Matt doing a litany for Saint Ive is perfect. This is people who did research in Catholicism.
Yeah.
And he is the patron saint of lawyers.
Okay.
So yeah, I
I,
thought it
th-
was
I thought
really
it was
great.
the patron saint of moisturizer because they're St. Ives moisturizer, right? I think
Nice.
it's a moisturizer.
So he is he's praying and uh when Matt Murdock prays, he has to remember his entire life. So
Yes.
he has a very lengthy flashback during prayer.
Yeah.
Um,
Nothing from the Netflix show though. I was surprised. I thought they would cut that in there,
yeah,
but maybe they're not allowed to use any of that footage.
can't imagine why they own it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So Heather shows up. She walks in. She goes, "Wait, you're praying?" And he's like, "Yeah, I fell off of it, but like I'm trying to get back in." And then we cut to Fisk's office, and Sheila is giving Mayor Fisk his briefing, and it's like you have to go volunteer until 4, and then go do this. He's like, "Fuck this! I hate this." He's like so angry about it, and she's like, "This is the job, man. Like I don't know what to tell you." And so there's an unexpected guest in the office, and it's a guy from the Tracksuit Mafia. And Kingpin's like to Sheila, "Okay, I'll deal with this."
This is the most comic book sequence so far in this series, by the way.
Yeah.
Is that a guy wearing a tracksuit showed up at Gracie Mansion and was like, "I gotta talk to the mayor," and they're like, "Right into his office, please." like that's amazing. That's amazing.
So this guy is like, "Listen, I'm not paying this $1.8 million because he's the family that has to pay the other family $1.8 million. He's like, "You're a fucking old man. You're out of the game. You don't know what's going on anymore, and I'm not doing it." And Kingpin is like, "Listen, you know what? You shouldn't pay the $1.8 million. You got to pay $2.8 million. $1 million of that is a tax that I get." And the guy is not, he says, "Shove it up your ass," basically.
Yeah.
And he says, you have a week. And Luca, who's the name of the guy, is kind of perturbed by it. Fisk puts a pin on him, an apple pin.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to push that into his chest.
I thought so too.
I guess we're supposed to think he's going to do that, and then he has restraint, and maybe what we're supposed to get out of that. But I would thought it was really interesting. So this guy Luke is like upset. And he's like, "Tell the wife I said hi," and he leaves. Meanwhile, Matt and Heather are basically having breakfast, and she's got to go because she has this publishing meeting.
Do you think it annoys Matt in any way that like because she's there, he's got to act like he's blind? That like he's got to like pretend to like feel for like the shelf and stuff?
No, because he does it all day. He hasn't been Daredevil,
but you would think in his home, like he doesn't do that when nobody's around, right?
Yeah, but Matt fucks, so he's used to having women over his house, I think.
That's true.
This is not as much of a violation of his space.
Yeah.
Because he's very used to it. She is like, "Hey, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Why?" He's like, "Well, you were taken hostage yesterday." And he's like, "You know what? I wasn't worried about it." And she's like, "Was it Faith?" And he goes, "Yeah, kind of."
Sure.
So she tells him that she's going to start working on her second book, and it's going to be about vigilantes. And it's going to be the question of, do masks let us be our true self, or do masks let us bury ourselves and allow the animal to come out? And Matt's like, well, maybe a little bit of both. And so she's like, "Hey, you've represented a bunch of vigilantes."
Yeah, and he's like, "I represented Spider-Man, but I don't remember why."
I mean, that honestly probably is like part of it. Like when she says a bunch of vigilantes, she probably is counting Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Hey, you've worked with them before. You defended a bunch of them. Maybe you could put me in touch with Frank Castle." And Daredevil, it might just last. Like, "You want to interview the Punisher?" Which I thought was really great. And she asks him, "But you also worked with Daredevil, didn't you?" But before Matt can come up with a lie, her Uber arrives and she has to go. And then that's when the fucking opening credits kick in.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's quite a while. Yeah.
So after the credits, we're back in Mayor Fisk's office, and he has a visit from sanitation, John Santini, the best character on this episode, straight up.
100% the best character. And my favorite kind of New York character, which is the guy who has got like a menial job, but knows the history of everything.
Yeah.
And is like, I'm doing chemical breakdowns of stuff. Like all the things he's explaining. I love whenever you see that kind of stuff in a movie or TV show. Like in Die Hard with a Vengeance, there's the guy who's like leading the construction crew that's building like a tunnel, and he just keeps dropping like trivia about different like presidents and stuff, and I just love that kind of stuff. He's like, this tunnel was originally built in blah blah blah, like, and Yusef does that a little bit with the bank as well. But I love whenever characters are like that, and they only seem to ever be New York characters. I can't think of a character from another like action movie kind of thing in a different state where that character exists.
Well, I mean, even separate from that, it's good writing to make this guy have a thing. Like,
Yes.
this could just be a guy who walks in and says, Mayor Fisk, we tried to take it down, but we couldn't. It turns out that it's an epoxy made of human blood. But,
Yeah.
like, they make a whole bit out of it, right? He's, like,
Yes.
going into too much detail. And that's, like, good writing because you want to make all your little characters feel like they are a person and, like, that there's a fun aspect to this scene or an interesting aspect to this scene that isn't just exposition being dropped on your head.
So also, Santino is eating something in the mayor's office, which I appreciate too. He comes in with like something in his hand and tosses it into his mouth, and he's chewing the whole time. It's like, so, this is great. I love it.
It turns out that they couldn't get this mural down, and after they did some chemical testing, turns out the mural is made from an epoxy created by human blood, and they think, what was it, like 60 different people, the DNA testing came back?
Well, as they start checking all the different Muse murals.
Yeah.
Is where they get up to 60. Yeah.
So Matt's at the office and he's meeting with Kirsten, and Angela Del Toro shows up.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, you're skipping school, I see. And she's like, listen, I got a 99 in English, like, and with the curve, it's 104.
Yeah. She's like, I want to make it very clear I'm super smart. So that's going to play into the future when I'm a superhero. Don't worry about it.
So she says, my uncle was working on this missing persons case. Nobody cared about it. And all these people went missing and the cops just don't care. And she's like, you got to do something about it. He's like, what do you want me to do? And that's it. What I had a problem with here is that he has a PI on staff.
Yeah.
And he just could have said, you know what? I'm going to send my PI Cherry to go look into this for you.
Yeah.
Like, he could have said that. Like, I mean, I don't understand why, other than the fact that the story might end if he didn't do that.
Yeah, because that would be the end of her story. Yeah.
Yeah, because then, like, Cherry would just go do stuff. Like, that, by the way, people were like, why isn't Jessica Jones his PI? And the reason why is because you can't have a superpowered character be his PI because there's no need for Daredevil at that point.
Yeah.
Like, she's going to go investigate, find the thing, and then just beat the guys up. Like, there's no point in Daredevil being in the show.
Also, budget,
but like they apparently had a much bigger budget here than they did on the Netflix show.
No, I'm sure they did, but I imagine Kristen Ritter would cost more than the guy who plays Cherry.
Yeah, but I think
she had her own show, and they're like, "We're gonna bring you back," and she'd be like, "Money."
Yeah, but they want to bring her back anyway, so I would not be surprised. But that's the story reason is that you just can't, because then you have a superhero who's already doing stuff, and you just no longer need anybody.
Yeah, there's no reason for Matt to return to vigilantism.
Exactly, because he already owns a vigilante. Anyway, he's like, listen, I can't do anything. You should talk to the police. She goes, you got to be fucking kidding me. I'm not going to. The police killed my uncle. Like, give me a break. And she's like, I thought you cared. There's a nice little thing where she's like, you're using therapy talk, and he goes, am I? She goes, I hate it. And he goes, yeah, I do too. Again, just very charming. Like, he's very charming.
Yeah.
And she's mad though, and she goes, fine, I thought you cared, but I'm gonna have to take matters into my own hands.
I'm gonna have to Tim Drake this shit. Is what she says.
Meanwhile, Fisk has Gallo in the office, and we figure out there may at least be 60 victims. And they're just talking, and Fisk is like, he zones out. He's so fucking bored. And also he thinks what everybody's saying is stupid.
Yeah, that everyone's being stupid with this. And I think also part of him is like, there's a serial killer. It's killed 60 people in the city. This is not going to go well. Like, this is not going to work out well for me.
I think it's great for him because this gives him the opportunity to do what he's wanted to do.
Well, I think at first he's like, this is bad. And you can see him formulating his plan in his mind of like, oh, I know what I can do with this. I know how to use this now. And he starts laughing because he's like, oh, I've turned it into an opportunity.
So he says, what I want you to do is I want you to bring me, we're going to overhaul how the police work, and we're going to do overtime. We're going to do all this stuff. We're going to do things real different. Is this where he has that discussion with, I think, right? Where he's like, give me all your worst guys. Does that happen here? Or is that later on?
No, that's a bit later, but it's essentially the same scene, right?
Yeah. He's like,
later. In this scene, he's got a real good line where that guy says something about like, Like, because you're not letting the police do their jobs or whatever. And Fisk is like, when sanitation figures out that there's a serial killer before the police, maybe it's right not to give the police more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he tells the Gallo to bring him all his bad apples, and he wants all the guys that do violence and all the guys that are trouble, and he's going to make a team out of them. So we then cut to Muse, and Muse is painting, and two drunk girls find him, and they're so excited to see Muse. It's like they found Banksy. This scene is directly out of the comics, by the way.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're like, "Can we take a picture of you?" In the comics, it's different. Like he's like, "Yeah, come over here," and he like does like a selfie with them. They specifically say not a selfie, and then he kills both of them.
Takes their eyes.
Well, we find that out later, but yes, he does. And that seems to be his thing, taking people's eyes. Fisk has to go to a party, and his suit doesn't fit anymore. He's fat again.
Rips. Yeah.
And
he ate like 7 sausages the night before. We saw that.
And this is obviously also metaphorical. Like this job doesn't fit him. Like he should not be the mayor. This is just not where he belongs.
Yeah.
And so they go to this party, and it's a fundraising party. Vanessa has this whole thing where she's like, listen, there's 2 ways to manipulate people, which is find out what they want and either withhold it or give it to them. With super rich people, you can't do either. But what they really actually want is proximity to power. And you coming asking for money is giving them that.
Yeah.
So that's like her way of saying, hey, don't be ashamed of doing this. Like, this is actually how you're going to win them. So they go, and we find out that fucking Tony Dalton, Lalo, is there.
Yep.
Very exciting.
Jack.
Earlier in the episode, we did one of those BB on the street things, and some kid showed his video footage of swordsmen fighting some guys.
Yes.
It looked like a schoolyard.
It appeared to be a schoolyard, yeah. which I greatly appreciated.
So it's Jack Duquesne, and he is getting a swordsman from Hawkeye. And again, making Daredevil one of the things that has the most crossovers. It's just a lot of little crossovers. And he basically tells Fisk, like, listen, your vigilante thing's stupid, like, and it's not going to work. And he also meets Dana from the Pit.
Yes.
Who is brutal to him. Like,
they are both real brutal to him. It does not go well for him.
No, it doesn't go well. Like I love the way that swordsman is brutal to him. It's like very charming, and he's like, "Oh no, it's not a threat. It's a warning."
But that's the thing. He starts off charming, and then when Kingpin's like, I'm the mayor, I'll do what I want, and he's like, I can just buy Gracie Mansion and kick you out. Like, this is not a problem for me. This is a problem for you. I am filthy rich, and I like that.
So, and then Dana from the Pit is like really fucking wide open. Like, you're a piece of shit. Like, and like you had this job for a couple of years, but like we run the city, and we decide who eats, and it's up to us. So don't forget your fucking place, and we could shut you down at any moment. And Kingpin is just straight humiliated.
Oh yeah.
And I love this because again, this story arc is him trying to be a good guy, trying to be the mayor, and discovering he's still a bad guy and that he doesn't actually want to be the fucking mayor. Like, I kind of like that a lot.
Very much so, yeah.
Then we have the weirdest scene in the whole show. Matt's in the office working late, and Cherry shows up, brings him like a scotch, and Cherry's like, hey, so I wanted you here for me. I got heard from my guys in the department. There's a serial killer, and he's like killed 60 people. And he goes, Matt, promise me you're not going to get involved in this. Like, what the fuck are you telling him for? I understand.
I mean, he says you're going to find out sooner or later because it's going to be in the papers. What I don't get is promise me you won't get involved, because at this point, Matt is not Daredevil anymore.
Yeah, that's like part of it, right? Like, is like a real sense of like, wait, why is Cherry even giving him this warning? Like, he hasn't been Daredevil for a year. So this episode feels like one that is heavily stitched together.
Supposedly, this was supposed to be like episode 7 or 8, right? Like,
no, this is episode 4.
Oh, this is supposed to be episode 4?
Yeah, he got the suit back in episode 4 in the original version.
Okay. All right.
So,
but well, he got the suit back, but originally did he get the suit back to go fight Muse? Or
that's the inciting. This is like when he first puts the suit back on. It was episode 4.
But yeah, no, I get that. But what I'm saying is like I didn't know if like Muse was like this would be the episode right before the season finale where he fights Muse. Like maybe all that stuff
No, because the
is
end of the
pushed up,
season is
like her
Punisher.
getting
End of the season is
captured or whatever.
Punisher. It was always
Okay.
Punisher.
Okay.
Punisher's the guy that was in 7 and 8, and I think it's gonna. They pulled Punisher stuff forward because they wanted to get the Punisher faster.
Yeah.
But it's very funny because he got the suit back in episode 4 in the original version, and the word was that Marvel was upset because it took him too long to become Daredevil, and this one takes him 6 episodes.
Make it take longer. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they opened the show with him being Daredevil, so that like maybe buys them a little bit extra time.
Sure.
But this episode feels like it's got like pieces that are sewn together. I think they do a pretty good job, and I think that the Fisk and Daredevil stories are really good mirrors of each other.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're really edited really well too.
Very much so.
But this cherry scene does feel like it's a victim of something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's something that was cut out, or they had to like figure out something. I mean, it just doesn't feel right.
Well, it's weird because we just had a scene where they're telling Fisk, like, hey, this guy's out there who's killed 60 people. Cut to Cherry coming in and being like, hey, this guy's out there who's killed 60 people. And it's like, well, you just told us this information like 2 minutes ago. Why are you repeating it now? You know, this is very similar to the problem of the Netflix show where Matt would learn something and 2 scenes later, Foggy and Karen would learn the same thing. And so we're just being told the same information over and over again. And that's not necessary here. Like when he gets the call that, what's her name?
Angela's missing.
Angela's missing. That should be enough for him to go out. Like he doesn't also need to know that there's a serial killer out there because she's already said something weird's going on in these tunnels. Can you look into it? He's like, no. And then, hey, she's missing. She went to the tunnels. I got to go find her. That would be enough, I think.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I mean, that's part of why this scene feels weird. It's just, it's just not. They must have decided that they needed like an extra beat for him.
Yeah.
To make it really. Because one of the things I don't mind that it took 6 episodes to get him in the suit, because I really feel like they paid it off really well. They built up to it really, really well, and so when he goes like fuck it and just opens his
that was a good bit. Yeah,
and like you really feel it, like oh fuck yeah, like all right. So back at the party, Fisk gets pulled aside by Gandolfini. As you got to see this, and they show him a picture of the 2 girls who have been murdered, and that the painting is like making fun of the police.
Yeah.
So Fisk goes to meet his hand-picked Bad Apple team. And one of them is Cole North, who's a character from the comics.
Yes.
But he's a good guy in the comics. He's a good cop.
But he started off anti-vigilante and then started to work with Daredevil after.
Yeah, but this is a bad cop.
Yes.
Cole North was never a bad cop. He was always a good cop.
Well, I think his whole story is set up in a way of like, I'm a cop that goes above what I'm supposed to do, and that got me in trouble.
Yeah, they all do. They all beat the shit out of people that they shouldn't be beating the shit out of.
But like his thing is like, oh, this guy was like peddling drugs to children, you know, and I beat the crap out of him, and that's why I got in trouble. So like the audience thing can be like, well, you know, he was trying to protect kids.
I don't know.
It's kind of like that bit in like Naked Gun where he's like if I see a man in robes stabbing another man in robes, I'm gonna put a stop to it. He's like, they were doing Shakespeare in the Park. You know? Like,
the thing is, maybe it's just my perspective as a person who's not a fan of cops. I just can never get behind a cop who beats people.
Oh no. I agree with you personally, but I think
he's irredeemable to me. That's the thing.
I think that is the thought process here. Is like, oh, but he was trying to protect children, right?
Yeah,
like.
Maybe. So Fisk is like, hey, so here's how this is going to work. You have no body cams. You report directly to me, and you get to do whatever the fuck you want. And like, I want you to be rough, like fucking use your talents. He says, like, go and do it. And then they all get their vigilante task force.
Also, the cop we've been watching the whole series,
Powell. Yeah, he's there too. Yeah, the guy who was Matt Murdock's foil.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Angela goes to the subway where Hector thought that there might be something going on, and she comes upon a part of Muse's lair, and he gets her. And the aunt calls Matt. I like that Matt's sitting in the dark, by the way.
Yeah, that's nice. Before that, I can't help but think if I'm How old is Angela? 13? I'm 13 years old. I'm
Older.
like,
She's in high school, I think.
is she in high school? Okay, 14.
Yeah.
She's very young.
She might be 16 years old.
She looks very young. That's all I know.
No, I mean she does, but
But if I'm going to be like, hey, I'm going to go explore the subways to try and find these missing people, part of me, I think right away would be like, I should take my uncle's magic amulet.
yeah, but she doesn't have possession of it, so it doesn't.
She does. They got it back in the previous episode. Remember?
Yeah, but no, his wife has it. She doesn't have it.
I mean, he gives it to her. The last time we see the magic
She
amulet,
takes it back to the family and gives it to the wife. That's who you give all that shit to, the wife, because she's next of kin.
I know, but the last time we saw it, Matt gave it to Angela. So
no,
you
I understand.
Have
you'd have,
just
to have,
like,
you'd have to have a scene of her taking it out to make that work.
Yeah,
because it just seems really weird that she would not.
No, I don't disagree, but like you can have that scene of her just taking it out and being like, I'm going to go down there and look for it.
Yeah, but also like you can't, because she needs to be in trouble. So you can't have her have superpowers. You just can't do it. The aunt calls Matt, who's sitting around in the dark, and is like, hey, Angela disappeared. And he's like, call 911.
There's two bits here. He's sitting in the dark, and I also like he's looking up information online
about
and he's got the screen reader going, which I like. Yeah.
He goes to call 911, but then he's like, fuck it, like, no, I'm gonna do it. And so he goes and gets his fucking suit out of his closet. And again, that fuck it is really incredible.
Oh, it's great.
It's great. So good. It's like, and again, one of the things that I love about this episode is that I think it's really vital to have Matt going to rescue somebody and not to get revenge.
Yes, I agree.
The Netflix show is like just revenge, right? Like that's what he's driven by. But here, this is a real heroic thing.
Yeah.
And he's going to go help a girl. So we have two fights going on side by side. Matt goes down to find Muse. So Muse has got like a fucking bloodsucker in Angela's femoral artery.
Yeah.
And he's bleeding her dry. And Fisk has gone down into his little dungeon, and there's Adam, and he says, you know what? I think Vanessa would want me to let you go. And Adam's like, thank you. And he goes, the problem is I think I can't do that. And he says, when I was a kid, I've met a lot of big guys who are really good with their hands. And I learned that like a tool can really even things up. He's carrying an axe. And so you think he's coming down there to chop this guy to pieces, but no, he throws the axe to Adam, and he's like, okay, let's fight. And Adam comes at him, and Kingpin just beats the shit out of this guy.
Here's one thing I want to make it clear, because I've said a bunch about how Matt should be able to take out these people real quick. He's super ninja, right? Wilson Fisk should be able to take out Adam 1, 2, 3.
He doesn't want to.
He's playing with him.
Yeah, he's playing with him. He's hurting him. Yeah, that's what he's doing.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's why that takes a while, and I get that. So I'm just making it clear in case anybody like, hey, you complain about this, but not this. It's a different format of what's happening.
Matt goes down to Muse's whatchamacallit, his little lair.
Subway, yeah.
And I really like this. I really like that there's a scene here. Like Muse, by the way, knows Matt's there. He knows Daredevil's there. He hears him somehow.
Yeah, he like senses him.
So again, I think he does have superpowers.
Oh, no. He hears noise. He looks, and the train is going by. And then he sees Matt is running up.
The thing is that he lives in the fucking subway. Like the train comes by all the time.
Sure.
This is a guy who does not go and check every time the train comes. He definitely heard something else that makes him go look. And then when the train passes, he's still looking. Yeah. He doesn't go back. Like he doesn't go, oh, that was the train. Okay, I can go back. He is like peering down the subway tunnel.
Yeah.
And in a scene that reminded me so much of Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Shot of Matt running.
That shot of Matt running so funny. I mean, like he has to, but it's like so funny. It's like that scene in Holy Grail where like the two guards look and like Lancelot's running across the field and he never
gets back to the guards and him. And
he never gets any closer, and then all of a sudden he's there. That really reminded that. But Matt does a really fucking cool thing. He shoots his little line, and he fucking sails through the rest of the tunnel and delivers a punch directly to Muse's head.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
So they begin fighting. It's a very good fight, and there's a lot of and it's clear that Muse knows how to fight.
Yeah,
which also he does in the comics. He is a very competent fighter. And they really beat the shit out of each other pretty badly. We Daredevil figures out that Angela's still alive. He knows that she's alive, and he knows that she's getting drained. He can
Yeah,
tell
you can
that.
hear her heartbeat getting slower and slower.
I think also they have like that soft focus in the scene. I think that's maybe radar sense happening.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I thought soft focus was for whenever he's listening.
Yeah, but I think listening is the radar sense, right? That's like their way of like making it like dumbed down for the audience. Because that's what the radar sense is. It is hearing.
Yeah, but he's supposed to have like the, where you can see the shapes and stuff.
Yeah, I know, but like that's all from hearing, though.
Yeah, but whenever they do this, it's him just like listening to conversations or like heartbeats.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to get it across to the dummies in the audience. I think the Netflix show is ashamed of it, and I think that has carried on here, and I really would like them to fix that in season 2.
Yeah.
So they fight a lot, and there's a really good bit where Daredevil seems to have knocked Muse out, and he's on the floor, and he flips over, and the camera flips with him.
Yeah,
really
cool.
Great shot. I mean, like it's a real horror movie shot. It's terrific. And as Matt's about to save Angela because he hears her dying, they start fighting again. And finally, Daredevil gets Muse up against the wall and puts his billy club rope around his neck and hangs him. And I like this too because I don't love the idea of like Daredevil hanging a guy.
Yeah.
But this is the Netflix Daredevil, so we're going to have to acknowledge that that's kind of how he operates. But he stops doing it because he knows that Angela is in trouble.
See, I at this point, I'm not sure which heartbeat he's listening to at this point. Because we hear a heartbeat slowing down, and I took it as like, oh, he's listening to Muse's heartbeat to make sure, like, I'm not going to kill him.
No, it's definitely
here long enough until he's unconscious.
No, the only heartbeat we've been listening to this whole episode is Angela's.
Okay, I took that as Muse's, that he was not trying to kill Muse.
I don't think that I don't if that's what they intended. They did not tell that story visually because the only heartbeat that we've seen him focusing on in this scene is Angela.
I agree.
We would need a shot of him focusing in on Muse's heart, and I don't think. I think he in that moment is like, I'll fucking kill this guy, and then he remembers why he's there, which is to save this girl, and so he saves her, and Muse disappears, and Angela wakes up. She goes, Daredevil. And he goes, I'm here for you. You're going to be okay. And then he goes, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. And that is the end. That is the end of the episode.
Yes.
Loved it.
Yeah, good episode. Good
episode. I really like watching Adam get beat up, frankly. I can't lie. I maybe supposed to not like that, but I kind of did like it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like it in that we're seeing, and you said this before, the mirror of Fisk and Matt, and that Matt is coming back into the game because people need help.
Right.
And Fisk is returning to his old ways because
it's vengeance. Yeah.
It's not just vengeance, but it's also he's got a beast in him. He's got rage in him, and he's got to let it out. And being mayor and watching kids sing badly, he just can't do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And the life that he is trying to leave behind keeps encroaching on his mayor stuff with, the dude showing up in his office from the Tracksuit Mafia. And like, so he can't get away from it. And then when he goes to the party with all the rich people, they're like, no, you're that guy. We all know you're that guy.
Yeah.
We're not going to deal with you. And he's like, all right, fine. I'm going to go kill Adam and then be a bad guy again.
I don't think he even kills him. I think he just beats the shit out of him.
Oh, he killed him.
You think so?
He killed him. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the idea is that he punched his face into nothingness.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love this episode, and I love, again, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that Matt's return to Daredevil is based on heroism, and that the girl is excited to see him.
Yes.
Like, he is not a dark figure. He is a figure that she is like happy to see. And like, I love that. That's what I want out of this shit. I don't mind that he's breaking legs or hanging guys, as long as there is this sense of heroism, and that, what, we've established that Matt has this, angel devil side. So I don't mind when the devil kind of like gets out a little bit. That's fine. It's okay. That has, since Frank Miller, become the generalized characterization of Daredevil.
Yeah.
Very much not the character that was introduced in the 60s.
No.
He was like a Spider-Man. He was like quipping and shit all the time.
Yeah. Well, again, that was part of his he's called Daredevil because he's a daredevil. He's leaping around and taking crazy chances and whatnot. Yeah.
But I love the heroism of it, and that
Yeah.
just really makes it work for me. And again, I feel like that it took so long, and that they were so specific about the beats to get him back in the costume. That Hector, and then the bank robbery, and then now this. Like, I just think it's really great. I don't mind the length it took because it felt really
It
as a
worked out well. It
satisfying
worked out well. Yeah.
payoff.
Yeah. It worked out well. One thing
Um,
if anyone working on season 2 is watching this, we're listening to this, I do want to say, I think Charlie Cox is really good in this season. I think he's really good. Stop having him yell out in like rage and anger because it just does not work.
yeah, but that's a Netflix thing. They're going to keep that in the character.
But like in this episode, when like he does like the King Kong lean back for his rage, he's like, ah! It was kind of goofy looking. I was like,
yeah, no, it's not great.
We don't need that. That's fine. That can go away.
I also think that's just something that Charlie Cox maybe is part of his take on the character, because Cox and D'Onofrio were very involved in the retooling and in bringing these characters. Although what's funny is that the bank robbery episode was one of the pre-reshoot episodes.
Yes.
And I don't think that version of Matt is like out of control. Like, that's totally reasonable. Yeah. You know, Rob Liefeld was like, "Oh, it's a I heard it was a comedy, that they made a comedy." Nothing that we have seen that was from the original looks like a comedy.
I mean, in comparison to the 2.5 or season and a half of the Netflix series I've watched, this is much more of a comedy in that they have moments of levity.
Yes.
You know, like the whole thing with Fisk going and the kids are singing bad, and then he goes to the Latvian embassy and they're singing the same song. Like, there's things like that, you know, or like in episode 5 in the bank episode where Matt knocks out the guy and turns to U7 and goes, "Oh," like there's little bits like that are, you know, that they're not comedy. They're not like, ha ha, jokes, ha ha, but they lighten up the sequence a little bit, and they're a little more fun than the Netflix show.
Yeah, and the show's not doing comedy when he's fighting Muse. Like, he's not like quipping.
Yeah,
or
he's
whatever.
not. Yeah,
like,
he's not like.
It's very brutal. Like, and that's what those fans want. They want the brutality. I guess they just want the misery, which is just not interesting to me.
What this show does not have is the misery. Although, I mean, there is misery. Like, Matt is miserable.
Yeah, but he's like miserable, but he's like dealing with it.
Matt is, for lack of a better term that comes to me at the moment, Matt is Mark Waid Daredevil miserable, right? Where he is miserable. He has his Catholic guilt. He's got all that stuff going on. But whenever he's around people, he's putting on a different face.
Right.
He's putting on the idea of like, hey, I'm Matt Murdock, blah, 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 boo, 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 you know, like that kind of stuff. And as time goes on, we might see that facade go away because things get worse and worse. Who knows? We'll see. But I do think he's got that thing going. And then the show also does not have the long, endless monologues about the importance of faith and vengeance and justice and all that kind of stuff that the other show had all the time. It stops like halfway through, and it's like, now someone has to talk for 5 minutes about, you know, try and do like a metaphor that is patently boring to listen to and overly obvious. And
yeah, that show was full of filler. It was like filler.
Yeah.
And that's 100% true, because D'Onofrio, somebody was like, the scene here of Matt swinging over the city, somebody's like, boy, I love to see this. Effects aren't that great, but like, I love to see an agile Matt swinging around. And D'Onofrio's like, replied to this guy and said, we wanted that in the original show. We never had the budget. We couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so they had no budget on that show. So all they could do was stand around and talk.
Although one of the heads of Netflix recently in an interview was like, that was Marvel. Like, we were constantly telling them like we should go bigger, and Marvel. No.
No, Marvel TV was not well run.
Yeah,
not well run at all. It was a disaster. And so they didn't want to spend the money. They wanted to make everything as cheap. That's why Inhumans, they shot it on the Inhuman world. They shot it in a fucking community college in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's like insane. You're like, this looks like this is 70s architecture.
When I watched that, when it aired, all I could think of was a short that I made in college with my friends called Space Tilka. That's supposed to be a bunch of us in space fighting a monster, an alien, but you can consistently see like exit signs and stuff like that. Like, we just filmed it in like the dance building of our school, which had like a 70s futuristic look to it. And we're like, good enough. But yeah, you can see, you know, exit signs. You can see like doors and stuff like all over. There's like a vending machine, and like at one point we're like, well, we got to explain why in the captain's office there's an arcade game and stuff. And it's like, oh, he's real into 20th century artifacts. There you go. Like like that's what the Inhumans looked like. It looked like crappy college guys,
and they
getting
also
drunk
took
and film
away.
stuff for a weekend.
They took all their powers away. They cut Medusa's hair. It's like insane.
Yeah.
Like, first episode, they go, no, she doesn't have any hair. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you even adapting these characters?
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, they have a bigger budget now, and they're still standing around talking. Most of these episodes so far have been very dialogue heavy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But they're not monologues. They're not people just fucking pontificating. They're like characters having interactions and stuff.
Yes, yes. I mean, the whole trial episode was great.
Yeah.
That still might be my favorite episodes. Between that and the 5th episode, I don't know which one will end up being my favorite at this point. But like both of those, I really enjoyed. And yeah, there's good character bits.
Yeah.
That they're doing.
Really good character bits. Yeah.
And like growing things out and like the stuff with Fisk and Vanessa in therapy is really well done.
Yeah.
And it's enticing and intriguing to watch without long soliloquies about, whatever they ramble on about.
There's that one episode where Kingpin's about to launch into one, and Heather's like, "Let's let Vanessa talk."
Yes, yes, yeah. I enjoyed that.
When I was a boy, and she's like, "Let's let Vanessa talk." It was very funny.
Even like the Punisher episode gets close to that stuff, but they do a good job of back and forth, and every time Matt starts like a monologue, Punisher's like, "Fuck off," just answer the question. And I like that. I like, and they also did that in the Netflix series. Right. To be fair, that Punisher had no time for that kind of stuff.
But I feel like those two characters would be guys who would pontificate at each other. I do feel that is in character. Yeah. That like Matt's going to fucking go and then Punisher's going to say some shit to him. I mean, obviously this Punisher is different than the comic book Punisher, who is very buttoned down. And this Punisher is very PTSD combat soldier, filthy mouth combat soldier. But anyway, 5 and 6 are great. The show is really good. I mean, we'll see what happens. We have 3 more episodes remaining, and we will see what happens. We'll see how this Muse. So, by the way, in the Muse story, he gouges out the eyes of this kung fu superhero Blindside. He was not blind previously, but now he was. And he goes into the hospital, and the hand comes, and the hand puts his eyes back, and he also becomes a conduit for the beast, the entity that the hand worships. So there's like a non-zero hand connection, and I really do feel like you bring in the hand for season 2. You know what I mean? Like it does make sense.
Was the hand in the Netflix series?
Yeah.
Okay.
They had the hand, they had Stick, they had all that shit.
Yeah, I remember Stick, and I remember they have the one like super ninja guy that he fights and sets on fire, but I couldn't remember if that guy was part of the hand. I think he's working for Fisk, but
I'm pretty sure they have
the
hand, and I think it's all tied into Elektra and shit like that.
Okay.
So I would like that. I would like that. It would be very nice to do a better version of that, make a really good version of that. So I'm all for that. All right, that'll do it for us. This is a long ass episode. We shall see you guys again next week for the next episode of Daredevil Born Again. Until then, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be well. But most of all, may you remain a true believer.